I'll call to order the August 9th, 2021 meeting of the, I think we should be calling ourselves the Mobility and Traffic Safety Commission. Amanda, do we have a roll call?
Yes. Chair Brian Grover.
Here.
Vice Chair Marty Benson.
Here.
Commissioner Glenn Johnson.
Present.
Commissioner Robert Prendergast.
Here.
Commissioner Mary Lou Schultz. Commissioner Michael Von Neumann.
Here.
Commissioner Patricia Trout.
Here.
All right. The gang is all here. Thank you, Amanda. Oral communications. Any speakers tonight?
Yes, we do. Let's see here. I believe we have 9 speakers, and 5 of them are going to be
participants.
Oh, thank you. Excuse me. 5 of them are going to be speaking on the same subject. So let's see here. It does look like I only have 5 in attendance right now. So I'll go ahead and start with Christine Schindler, if you don't mind, and I'll go ahead and unmute your mic just to give the rest of you a little more time. So Christine, you should be able to unmute.
Yes, you can hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Christine Schindler, East Encinitas. So welcome to our newest commissioner. Good to see you, Patricia. I am part of Encinitas Bike Walk. I'm also a League certified cycling instructor for the coalition under the League of American Bicyclists. The reason why I'm mentioning this is I'm doing some in-kind e-bike safety ahead of the start of the school year. And I just wanted to make you aware of it. So there's, a lot of interest and concern about e-bike riding safety, especially among like middle school age youth. So I just wanted to let you know that we are doing some things. We have done some things, and we have some things planned, and there'll be more coming down the pike. And a lot of it is just letting youth know the right way to use the infrastructure that we have, and to encourage them to be safe and considerate and predictable. It's going to be a tough one to have a good conversation with adolescent boys about how to care about yourself and your safety and others, but we're going to do it. So our next one is at Degamio Middle School tomorrow morning. Any of you are always welcome. I can let Amanda know what we have planned, and if you ever want to pop in and help out or just observe or what have you, you're certainly welcome to. So it's tomorrow at 10 o'clock at Degamio. We're doing like a 10-minute talk, and then the rest of the time is going to be doing skill building out on the blacktop. So both the middle school administrators are very, very keen on doing as much as they can with parent orientation and with students, because they are very concerned and they don't want any of their students to be injured, whether it's a pedestrian or a bike rider or e-bike rider. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. Thank you for your service and your time.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you, Christine, for your work. It's a big job you've taken on.
It's my pleasure. I'm happy to help.
Christine, could you share your schedule with Amanda?
Yeah, I'll send her an email with the information. Thanks for the suggestion.
Great. Okay, so I will move on to Bobby Bobsian is the first of this first group of 5. Or I'm sorry, Bonnie Bobsian. I will go ahead and unmute you, and then you will be able to unmute your mic.
Thank you very much. I am Dr. Bonnie Bobstein, speaking on behalf of residents of the 4 streets Via Palacio, Via Bellina, Via Saracen, and Via Tavira. All 4 streets connect with Via Molina and are opposite the apartment complex known as the Resort, formerly called Mission Ridge Apartments. I'm a 30-year resident of Via Palacio, and in the past 6 months, I've witnessed an astonishing increase in the number of non-resident vehicles parked on my street. 6 months ago, about 4 non-resident cars were parked each night on my street. Now the number of cars averages 15 to 24 vehicles. The same phenomenon is being experienced by the other 3 streets mentioned, such that each night our streets have 60 to 80 non-resident vehicles. We have witnessed these non-resident vehicles originating from the residents from the resort apartment complex. This is occurring in spite of 60 to 100 empty parking spaces at night within the apartment complex lots. The parking from the resort complex on our streets has resulted in non-resident cars with occupants smoking, drinking alcohol, and loitering, parking in front of fire hydrants, mailboxes, and curb spaces where our garbage cans go, people urinating and defecating on our green spaces, drunken and combative behavior requiring the sheriff to be called on multiple occasions. Our resident security cameras witness cars parking and people having conversations midnight to 3 a.m. Our streets are being used as a commuter terminal. Our neighbors have witnessed commercial vehicles coming to collect workers who leave their cars all day parked on our streets. Non-residents trying the door handles of cars parked on our streets and opening neighbors' mailboxes. Non-residents speeding onto cul-de-sacs, hitting parked cars and driving off. Commercial pickup trucks are parking on our streets. The sheriff has been called numerous times for people loitering, parked cars in front of hydrants, parked cars for more than 3 days, thefts in cars, and drunken behavior. We no longer feel safe in our neighborhood walking dogs or walking alone. We feel unsafe being absent from our homes with so many strange cars and strangers loitering in front of our houses. There is anxiety from some of our neighbors about their teenage daughters being followed. Because of the assertive behavior of the non-residents, homeowners are now reluctant to report events to the sheriff for fear of retribution. We have worked with the management of the apartment complex to resolve the issue. The streets within the apartment complex are private. Complex residents require a parking permit that costs $25 per vehicle per year. The management placed a notice in their monthly newsletter asking their residents to use the provided complex parking spaces rather than our neighborhood streets. When this measure failed to produce results, the management gave us a flyer to put on the windshields of the non-resident cars parked in our neighborhood. The flyer urged the complex residents to park within the confines of the complex and reminded the residents of the process to acquire a parking permit. We distributed these flyers for over a week. However, nothing changed on our streets. Our investigation showed that these problems have most likely arisen due to excessive occupancy per unit at the complex. This has been verified by the sheriff when called for incidents at the complex. A long-term resident of the complex reported 10 adults living in a 2-bedroom unit. Despite high vacancy, the management has had to add an extra trash pickup day per week for increased trash. They also have increased water and sewage consumption. The management makes an annual unit inspection for damage and bed counts. An 11-year resident on the complex reported that prior to these announced inspections, trucks pull into the complex the night before and remove beds and furniture. This is how the true occupancy per unit is masked from the management. We have shared the foregoing information with the apartment management so that they might address the problem of over-occupancy and ineffective distribution of their parking permits. The apartment management, with input from their legal counsel, indicated there is nothing more they could do to assist with our problem. The apartment management, deputy mayor, our local city council member, and sheriff's office all recommended 24-hour permit parking on both sides of our streets to address our issue. Such permits have been granted to 3 other streets near the Ecke YMCA. The parking problem is increasing every day. For the sake of public safety, the integrity of our neighborhood, and the large drain on sheriff's resources, we respectfully request residential 24-hour permit parking on Via Palacio, Via Valina, Via Saracen, and Via Tavira. We have surveyed the residents on all 4 streets, and the majority of homeowners on each street supports 24-hour permit parking. The 5 speakers following me will share their personal experiences. And if I have time, I have 3 photos to show to you. Is that possible, Amanda?
Yes, and I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that you also had requested a time donation from Fred Galen. So sorry about that, Commissioners.
That's okay.
I will go ahead and share those photos for you.
Okay. Thank you, Amanda.
This first photo is a shot of Via Palacio, and this is what our streets now look like. I didn't actually get all the vehicles in the viewfinder, so there were even more, but as you can see, all the cars you see here are not of homeowners on this street. If you could show me the next one, Amanda. And this is an example of a non-resident vehicle parked immediately in front of a fire hydrant, as well as displacing my neighbor's garbage cans. She actually had to move them into the street to make them accessible to the garbage pickup truck. And the next one, please, Amanda. And this is an example of one of the commercial pickup trucks. Oftentimes they appear to be landscaping companies, and multiple vehicles of this nature will be found on our streets. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Okay, and our next speaker will be Tony Julicore. And whenever you're ready, you should be able to unmute.
Hello, everyone. Hi, my name is Tony Julicore, residing at 213 Via Palacio, living with my wife and 2 teenage daughters. We moved to this neighborhood back in late 2016. We have enjoyed our community and loved our neighborhood so much until 6 months ago, where we are feeling unsafe. Having strangers parking on our streets are mainly causing safety and security issues in our neighborhood. These strangers park their cars on our streets, most of the times stay in their cars, chatting, drinking, listening to music until late hours at night. In few instances, they were sleeping in their cars, where we had to call sheriff's office to check them out and provide them with citation not to stay overnight in their cars. Both my teenage daughters have been followed by few strangers in our street. My oldest daughter, parking right in front of our house, calls me or my wife to be escorted back inside the house because there are guys sitting in their cars in front of our streets watching her. My wife and I need to walk our dog every night before he goes to sleep, but afraid of doing so since there are people inside their cars drinking or what, who knows. For the sake of our community's safety and providing security, we're looking forward to the City of Encinitas to approve no parking signs with permit only in our streets. This will lessen the problems and difficulties among our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you. Our next speaker is David Bergheimer.
Hi there. My name is Dave Bergheimer. I have lived at 202 Via Vienna in Encinitas for 28 years. I live on the corner of Via Molina and walk the dog around the neighborhood daily. I see it all, more so than most residents. I am in support of a permit parking zone on both sides of the streets for the 4 streets aforementioned. I have witnessed many problems, and the seriousness and frequency of these activities keeps increasing. Many cars and trucks are very loud late at night. Loud engines, loud stereos, drunken yelling, and beeping the horn many times to make sure the car is locked. They wake residents up constantly. Every night, the parking on our street fills up with non-resident vehicles. I have counted cars on a few recent early mornings, and of 20 to 22 cars parked on the street, only 2 to 4 are residents and 16 to 18 are non-resident vehicles. The street is used by tree trimming and landscaping trucks to park every night. Workers wait on the streets in the morning and loiter again in the evening. Our street is being used as an on-street parking site for commercial, commuter, and other non-residential purposes. The non-resident parking results in people loitering and sitting in vehicles for hours, taking naps, eating dinner in their cars, drinking beer, shooting drugs, sleeping overnight in their vehicles, and urinating and defecating in my yard. It is apartment dwellers having to use our street for their living room and bathroom, as it is too crowded in their own apartments. It is not just a parking problem or a nuisance problem. It has become a serious crime problem, which adversely impacts the residential character of quality of life on the 4 streets. It is scary to see strangers sitting in front of your house. I am worried for our safety, frightened that you are about to be burglarized or robbed. My house has been burglarized 3 times over 20 years. I have seen 5 to 7 times over 10 years, men walking down the street checking car handles to try to burglarize cars. I witnessed someone trying to open my truck handle 2 weeks ago and yelled at him, and he ran off into the apartments. My truck was just vandalized, keyed last Monday, 3 days after I spoke to Officer Fuller as he was going to chalk an SUV for 72-hour parking, and the owner ran across from the apartments and moved it. I've had my property vandalized numerous times by non-residents. I contacted all 15 homeowners on Via Vienna, my street, and all of them signed a petition requesting a permit parking zone. Everyone is for it. Everyone expressed fear for their family's safety, frightened for their property will be vandalized, fear to call the police as there is ongoing intimidation and retaliation by non-residents. The problems are getting worse. It is now alarming. Please help us by granting a permit parking zone.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Holly Faincandle.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Holly Faincandle. I live at 201 Via Tavira. If you are familiar with Encinitas, as I'm sure you are, I'm the house directly behind the Bevmo, which is on the corner there. My house is, we have a fire hydrant directly in front of our home, and we are consistently seeing cars parking in front of the fire hydrant. I'm continually having to call the police to have them come out to ticket the cars. So in the event that there is a fire or anything, that my family will be safe. And each time the police officers do come to our home, they do advise us to contact you in order to try to get some sort of permit parking or even get some of the streets painted red. I do have security cameras throughout the front of my house, in which I've seen multiple times people from the apartment complexes walking over through our streets, opening up car doors, opening up mailboxes. There are people coming in and out of the streets throughout the entirety of the night. And I do know this because I can see them on my ring cam. I'm not awake watching for them, but I do see them on my ring cam crossing our front door and things like that. So I have been using the flyers. It's worked a little bit on our street because we are the closest street to the police station. However, I do know that it has not helped the streets up above us. And I have been talking to the majority of the folks on our street do wish to have the permit parking. So please, 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 if we can possibly get permit parking on our street, I know that that's going to definitely help the safety of our street. So thank you. I do appreciate your time.
Okay. Thank you, Holly.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lauren Hohenstein.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Hi, so my name is Lauren Hohenstein. We purchased our house in October. We are at 272 Via Vienna. And when we purchased our home, we were looking forward to a quiet neighborhood because we actually moved from Seattle, where we had a huge problem with camper vans running generators all night, people living in their cars, and drug use, theft, and trash dumping. So a lot of what we're now seeing currently, we actually just tried to get away from when we moved here. And the previous homeowners warned us to get our trash out early, like Wednesday morning, even though it's Thursday morning pickup, because we're fighting with cars who park there and take over the street, and there's nowhere to put your cans. And what we've witnessed in the months since we moved into our house is people using our streets as a park and ride, drivers speeding to the end and turning around because we're on a dead end loop. And so they just come down and turn around. And our 2 cars have actually been hit being parked on the street. In just the few months that we've been here, both cars have been hit. And it's obvious, we know it's not our neighbors, and they would tell us. And so it's very frustrating that we can't even park in front of our own house without having our cars damaged. And one thing I've witnessed, especially walking my kids around in the stroller, is people will park their cars in the morning and then wait on the corner to be picked up to go in a work truck. There's multiple people in the truck, and then they're dropped off in the afternoon and then come get their cars. And it's like they're not even living across the street. They're just using our street as a park and ride to get to wherever, if it's a central location. And then next, I've also seen an issue with these big trucks that they park along our street with trailers. When they can't turn around, that's when they come zooming down to the loop at the bottom. And I have 2 small children, and it's really, really frustrating that they just speed through and they don't care. They don't live here, and they just zoom through and whip it around. And I'm sure that's how we've actually seen damage to the cars as well. Another car got sideswiped pretty bad recently, my neighbor just across the street. And so we're seeing damage, and it's really, really frustrating to have this kind of activity on what we thought would be a safe, quiet place to have our 2 kids. And our neighbor actually put out a slow children at play sign, and that hasn't done anything. And they actually had their trash cans parked in front of by a car, and then the truck never even got to pick up their stuff. So it was really, really frustrating. And then we also have revving engines at night. There's a couple big trucks that have mufflers modified, and you can hear like vroom, vroom really late at night. And when we keep the windows open for airflow, it wakes up the kids, and then it also makes me nervous what they're doing out there. So I constantly sent my husband out to check what's going on. And also, we've also had to worry about just in general, them sitting in their cars outside, which makes me really nervous. They'll sit in their cars. They've been out to take out the trash, and they're sitting in their cars looking, not at their phones, but like looking around like they're casing our place or scanning garage doors, or I don't know. It just makes me really uncomfortable when there's constantly people sitting in the cars for multiple hours. It's not just like they're sitting, getting their stuff together and leaving their car. They're sitting in there, and I don't know what they're doing. They don't say hi or roll down their windows. So it makes us really uncomfortable, especially with my 2 kids. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time. And I would really appreciate having, a permit restriction so we don't have to deal with this constantly, especially this is why we moved Encinitas to not have this and get away from it in Seattle. And now we're seeing it all over again, and it can get much, much worse. And we saw it escalate really quickly in Seattle. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you. Our last speaker is Carla Hoffman. And I do have your photos, Carla, so just go ahead and let me know when you'd like me to share those.
Okay. Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak. I live at 205 Via Velina, and I actually am on the corner house directly across from the apartments and the entrance to the apartments. And I have lived here for 10 years. In the last more than just 6 months, but in the last year, I've seen this get worse and worse. I personally have had a little bit of a different issue as well. I've had littering in my yard, and to a point where I was actually physically every single morning going outside first thing before I go to work and having to scan the front of my yard that is up along the corner and in front of my house and picking up trash. I've been picking up, it's beer cans, beer bottles, orange peels, energy drinks, cups from El Pollo Loco. This stuff is happening. I've approached people that have walked by that have parked their cars there and have asked them, please do not leave your trash and leave your trash in front of my yard and put it there. I thought this was actually, it has gotten a little bit better, but just 2 days ago, there was just another piece of trash in my front yard. I also have had even worse problems because I had called the sheriff multiple times for cars that have been parked in front of my house for anywhere up to 7 days. And when I at one point went out to talk to the sheriff, there were quite a few people across the way at the apartments, and they saw me talking to the sheriff. And then 2 days later, my back light was broken. And then I just purchased a car for my son. I'm a single mother. I live here and I have 2 sons. And I just purchased a car for my son 3 weeks ago. And I had parked it on the street because I had people coming over, and I have to now park on the street so that I could save a parking space in my driveway for my friends to come over. So have a place to park. There is 0 parking on this block at night after about 5:30. And so the next day we went over to his new car, and it was keyed on the passenger side door. So, and I have a photo of that as well. But and then I'm also seeing multiple people bringing their cars. They're dropping people. They're picking people up, and they're going off to work, and then they're coming back. And we've just got a very large problem here as far as, just as everybody's been saying, they're using it as not only a park and ride, but to also park their second vehicle here, as they seem to be parking sometimes their first vehicle at the apartments. The apartments, I've been told actually by one of the people living in the apartments that she parks also on our block due to the vandalism that happened to her car, and she had a broken window when she parked it closer on Via Molina, which is the busy street that goes up and down from Via Cantabria to El Camino Real. There have been people sitting in their cars in front of my house as well. There have been some people are friendly, some are not. I have watched people because they have just sat there and then they take off. And so, I want to make sure that they know that there's a presence watching them. But it is a little bit on the scary side. And I have seen a lot of commercial vehicles be parked here while they leave their other vehicles at the apartment complex. Now, the apartment complex used to have and I was told from a resident there that they actually had a policy that if you have a 1-bedroom, you can only park 1 car. If you have a 2-bedroom, you can park 2 cars. If you have a 3-bedroom, you can park 3 cars. I don't know if the residents there have been really communicated that they can now park all of their cars there, because there's always multiple spots in the apartment buildings, while my street is got no spots. Just last Saturday, I came home after I went out, and it was about midnight, and I drove down the entirety of my street to look for a parking space because my friends had their car in my driveway, and my son had his car in the driveway, and there was no place for me to park, and they were leaving at 6 a.m. So I had to, I ended up having to park in front of my driveway and blocking my son's car. Things have just gotten just out of control. And as well as in the morning, at times, very, very early, I hear alarms going off and people getting into their cars. A lot of them leave very early in the morning, and it beeps and wakes anybody up who's got their window open. I would really appreciate a permit parking for our block. I do appreciate your time. And thank you very much. If you would show the pictures of my vandalized, I still have not gotten the light fixed yet. So, and the type of car. So that's one of the cars that just parked there. That was last Saturday. And that's in front of my house. If you can move it, that's not actually, yeah. If you zoom down, I think there's marks on, there you go. There's where it was keyed. And then the next one, that's where my light, it looks like somebody had taken a hammer or something and just knocked it. You can see the portions, the particles on the inside where somebody had knocked into it. And then there's like the glass inside at the bottom. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Carla. Amanda, did you say that was our last speaker overall, or was that just the last speaker on that particular topic?
Overall, that was our final
Okay.
speaker. Yeah.
Okay, so Abe, I have a question for you. I know that it's our common kind of practice policy to hear these comments during public comment and then discuss them during, either Commissioner's Corner or follow-up log or whatever it might be. Would it be out? I just don't want to make those speakers sit around and listen to the rest of our meeting for an hour. Can we not discuss this right now? Just rule of order kind of thing.
To be honest with you, I don't know. I've seen it happen at council every now and then, but it's usually very brief. If it's going to be a discussion, I'm not sure if we can. I mean, it's usually like a very brief, like direction to staff. Okay, staff, take a look at this or something to that level. But if you feel it's going to become a discussion item between the commissioners, I'm not sure if we can do this.
Got it.
I think by the Brown Act, we really can't act on anything that's not on the agenda, but I don't think it would be inappropriate to ask what are the rules about permit parking.
Yeah. So Mary Lou, I think when these things come up, when they've come up in the past, we've discussed them as part of do we want to add this to the follow-up log or not? And I guess all that I'm trying to figure out is, can we just have that discussion now so that these speakers, can hear that and don't have to wait around? I'm just going to go ahead and do it unless anybody objects to that. Abe, you can tell me if I get in trouble later for doing this. And commissioners, I just ask you guys, let's not have a discussion. I'm just going to put something out there in terms of, do we or do we not want to have this addressed, added to our follow-up log, and have a staff report brought back to us so that we can actually discuss it in detail. So please just respond accordingly. My 1 minute, response to, and thank you to all the speakers who came and discussed this. Michael, I think you might have been on the commission. I've been through all of the residential parking permit program, discussions that we've had on the Traffic and Public Safety Commission. The first one on Seacrest, the second one on Seaman, and then I think there's another one over by Scripps Hospital. This sounds like beyond a candidate for that program. It sounds like a perfect candidate for that type of residential parking permit program. Abe, we rely on you and your staff report and your formal recommendation to make decisions on that and to actually dig into this. But in terms of adding it to the follow-up log, I'm going to make a recommendation that we add it to the follow-up log. And I'm looking for 2 other commissioners to say yes to that if they support that, and then we can move on with no discussion on this. Okay, it looks like we've got Commissioner Von Neumann, Commissioner Schultz, Commissioner Prendergast, Commissioner Troth, Commissioner Johnson. Okay, so Abe, if we could just add that to our follow-up log. Again, I did not want to initiate a discussion, but I do want to be respectful of our speakers' time.
I have a suggestion, Chair. Why not just now that the members of public who attended the meeting and provided us their suggestions and requests have heard what the commission feels and wants to do about this, I would suggest we repeat this 3-minute conversation during the commissioner corner to have it technically correct. So we'll add it at that point to the log, but then the residents don't need to be at the commission at that point. We'll just repeat.
Okay. That sounds like a good idea, Abe. And just to the speakers, just know that keep an eye on our agenda in the coming months. Abe will be coming back with some sort of staff report looking at this, and that's when we can actually discuss it in more detail. So thank you. All right, and I guess with that, we can move on to, what is it, approval of minute? Oh, no, sorry. We've got the special presentations, proclamations, and announcements. Abe, it looks like the first one is from the Sheriff's Department. Are they here?
Yes, I don't know if we have Rob here tonight. Rob, are you there?
Oh, yeah. No, I don't see him here.
Okay, well, we can
Should we jump to the e-bike safety video?
Yes, let's do that. Amanda, can you please read the narrative we have from Nick, and then, or maybe do it after the video?
Okay, sure. Kieran's going to go ahead and share the video for us, and then I'll go ahead and read it after that.
With 263 sunny days a year and an average temperature of about 63 degrees Fahrenheit, Encinitas is bikeable almost all year round. Our coastal community is becoming more bike-friendly every year, but it's a group effort. Some of our friends who use sustainable transportation have messages to share when it comes to safety and fun. Wearing a helmet while bicycling is required by law if you're under 18. On a Type 3 e-bike, all riders and passengers must wear a helmet regardless of their age. We'll teach you about the different types of e-bikes shortly. Remember, helmet laws apply to passengers too. Visibility is really important for cyclists. Your bike should have reflectors in front and back, as well as on the wheels and pedals. Wear bright colored clothing and use a white front light and a red rear light when you ride, especially at night. Being seen is an essential part of staying safe on the roads. Bicyclists have the same rights and responsibilities on the road as people driving motor vehicles. Ride in the same direction as traffic and obey the first-come, first-served rules at intersections. Interact respectfully with your fellow road users by making eye contact, waving, pointing, or ringing your bell. Riding predictably keeps you and other road users from having to react fast or make sudden movements. The way you ride impacts the flow of traffic all around you. Signal your intentions and choose the correct lane for the direction that you're headed. There are a few different types of e-bikes, which are distinguished by their power assist system, maximum powered speed, and where they can be ridden. One of the best things about e-bikes is that the additional power makes it easy to move cargo or cruise up hills. They're great alternatives to a car because they can take you long distances with less effort than a non-electric powered bicycle. The ability to maintain higher speeds with minimal effort makes many riders feel more confident sharing the road with motor vehicles. Only some e-bikes are designed to lawfully carry passengers. Passengers who are under 18 need to wear a helmet. And if you're riding a Type 3 e-bike, all riders need to wear a helmet regardless of their age. Always ride lawfully and respectfully, but especially if you have a passenger on board. Their life is in your hands. Bike riders should usually try to match the average speed of the other people around them. If you're bicycling in a place with lots of pedestrians and you don't have much room to pass, stop riding and become a pedestrian. The most common places for collisions are at intersections. When you're on a sidewalk, every road, alley, driveway, and storefront is an intersection you have to safely navigate. That's one reason why biking on sidewalks is not advised and even illegal in some business districts. Type 3 e-bikes are not allowed on Class 1 multi-use paths. Keep your speed low when riding in separated bikeway facilities or around pedestrians. With higher power comes new responsibilities and restrictions. When a bike lane is available and you are riding slower than the speed of traffic around you, use the bike lane. You may leave the bike lane to pass other riders, turn left, avoid obstacles, or to avoid turning vehicles. A sharrow indicates that a lane is too narrow to be safely shared side by a cyclist and a motorist. The painted marking indicates that cyclists may ride towards the middle of the lane to discourage unsafe passing. Even if there is no sharrow, cyclists are allowed to use the full lane. When riding through a roundabout, act like a vehicle driver. Yield to traffic in the roundabout, and when it's clear, ride through and signal when you're about to exit. Motorists should treat cyclists just like a slow-moving vehicle or a tractor. This means signaling and completely switching lanes to pass, but only when it is safe to do so. Using active transportation and going by bike are great ways to get around, experience your community up close, and help preserve the health of our planet. You also get the added bonus of saving money and reducing CO2 emissions, all while boosting your mental and physical well-being. It's everyone's responsibility to respectfully share the roads and trails so that everyone can get where they're going safely.
All right. Thank you, Abe. Commissioners, does anybody have any comment or question about the video?
Chair, if possible, is it okay if Amanda reads the narrative that we got from Nick, who prepared this?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So he works in the Parks and Rec department. Electric bicycles or e-bikes are more popular than ever and allow people of many ages and abilities to get out and enjoy the fun and enjoyment of cycling with assistance from an electric motor. There are many different styles of e-bikes, from cargo e-bikes to beach cruisers to mountain bikes, making them useful and fun in many ways. E-bikes also provide a great alternative to getting in a car to travel around town. In response to the clear boom in use of e-bikes in and around Encinitas, the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Department, as an extension of its virtual Cyclovia event for 2021, has been creating and pushing out content to promote the safe and responsible use of bikes and e-bikes in the public right-of-way. In recent months, the City of Encinitas, in partnership with the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition, produced Encinitas' own video, which illustrates the common rules of the road, riding tips, e-bike classifications, and laws, and demonstrates proper use of bicycle infrastructure. We encourage the Traffic and Public Safety Commission to share the video. So the video is on the city website under, if you go to government and then departments, and then public safety, law enforcement, and it's under electric bikes. And I'm happy to share that if you all would like it, a link to it.
Sure.
Please.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Commissioners, questions? Pretty cool video. Good job. Okay. No questions. Abe, I guess let's move on to the next agenda item. Subcommittee updates. Okay, so mobility elements subcommittee update. Glenn, I think you were gonna give an update to the commission on this.
Yeah, Amanda, do you have that subcommittee report to put up on the screen, or do I have to fiddle with it here?
I can share it. Just one moment.
Okay. Just to mention, the subcommittee met through Zoom and looked at things that could be done in the circulation element and produced a long list of possible improvements. We refined it a bit and brought it up to a more abstract level and put it together as a first report here on what we think we can be done for this in this town. There we go. Okay, is that readable by everyone? I'm not going to read the whole thing, but we came to the conclusion that we really want to prioritize people over vehicles. Circulation elements used to prioritize vehicle navigation over everything else, but mobility elements want to provide for all means of travel, including especially foot travel, bike travel, and means other than private automobiles. One of the things that came up again and again, looking at various intersections and so forth, is that speed kills. And we'd really like to recommend, as part of the mobility element, reducing vehicle speeds within the city boundaries to perhaps 25 miles an hour. This is going to reduce the chance of accidents and injuries and fatalities. 25 mile an hour vehicle versus pedestrian crash is probably survivable. 35 isn't. And people say 25 miles an hour, that's terrible. We want to travel at freeway speeds. And there is a place in town you can travel at freeway speeds, honest. Okay, I would mention that Encinitas at its widest point is only about 5 miles wide. And if we're looking at a 25-mile citywide speed limit, if you're traveling the speed limit, it'll take you about 12 minutes to get from one end of town to the other, if traffic is behaving. And of course, if you're stop and go traffic, it can take an hour sometimes. But so we want to prioritize people. We want to make intersections safer for everybody, including whatever roadway designs we can think of, including bulb outs, roundabouts, and so forth. as we want this to go into the mobility element is going to be around for a while. So we can see things that really prioritize people over vehicles. And I think, we talk about flashing beacons and safe routes to schools and all the various technologies we have. The key thing is prioritizing. We want the city streets to be prioritized for residents and visitors, and of course, all of our commercial activities. And the mobility update element should focus on how to improve the experience of residents, visitors, and business customers, regardless of how they're getting themselves or their goods around town. So we have had some group of suggestions, but basically we want to also prioritize the safety of the most vulnerable residents, and that includes children, elderly people, as well as bicyclists of any age. And we'd like to see some investment in the Safe Route to School initiative, especially in front of the schools, parks, and playgrounds. We should do whatever we can to provide reduced speeds. I don't want to see any fatality accidents because of our negligence. The mobility element, of course, is going to combine all the previous initiatives and plans, such as active transportation, coastal mobility and livability, cross connect, roadway safety plans, etc. And of course, there should be some reference to plans for future land development and providing mobility. In summary, we want to make the city safer for all people and available for all modes of transportation. And of course, the mobility element is going to be part of the law for quite a while in town. 25 years is likely. It might be worthwhile to update it more frequently or with smaller plans, but the cost and time that it's taking for this update suggests that this is going to be pretty much the big thing as long as we have petroleum-powered vehicles on the street. I'd like to ask Michael and Mr. Von Neumann, do you have any further comments here?
This Commissioner Von Neumann. No, Glenn, I think you summarized things pretty well. This subcommittee report is our first effort at trying to summarize what the subcommittee feels that the Mobility and Traffic Safety Commission could support and advocate for before the City Council. We also hope this kind of is a guideline to actively participate in the mobility element planning process. We hope that the consultant who is hired to undertake this project will take the input from all of our commissioners to heart. And I think the big thing to remember is that our commission was appointed to represent residents, and we hear residents' concerns and issues, and we think some of our suggestions or priorities reflect a lot of what people have been talking about, are concerned about, and would like to see change. We understand there are factors that what's the word, can affect what can be implemented and not, state laws and things like that. But I'll speak personally. I am encouraged that in the California legislature, there seems to be some movement toward allowing cities to take more control over setting their own speed limits and getting rid of the 85% rule. And also there's an effort in the state legislature for what's called the Idaho stop, changing how bicyclists and pedestrians can approach intersections and stop signs. So we understand there's a lot to be done, but we hope to be a very strong voice in the process. Thank you.
Excellent. Brian, do you have any comments?
No, I think that was a great presentation. I guess my only question would be for both of you, Michael and Glenn, what do we want to do with this subcommittee report, if anything, at this time, given that the mobility element update is just now kicking off? Did we have an intent with this document?
That I want to ask the commissioners. My first thought had been to send this to the city council. We're advisors to them. But then I realized that they with so much important stuff from their point of view that this may not reach the top of the bucket. We could certainly forward this report to the development staff, Evan, who gave a presentation to us, and ask him to relay this to the contractor. We're going to continue working on this, of course. This is just a preliminary report, and there are a lot of things that can be added. Do any of the commissioners have any comments?
I think this is Commissioner Benson. I think that this is a wonderful document. I think the priorities that you've set are great. In light of the public comment that happened earlier today, and I have some more to say about that later, probably during Commissioner's Corner. I think it's important to maybe delineate specifically who we perceive as vulnerable members of the community, and to that point, I think that low-income people and out-of-town people should be added to the obvious list of children, especially around schools, and the elderly and the disabled. That's my only modification that I would make. I think this is a great document. Thanks.
Any other thoughts?
I'm having difficulty getting my hand raised, but I had two comments. So I was just looking, under your report, item 2E, you say ensure bicycle and pedestrian access on all streets. I'd like to see a little bit stronger word like provide bicycle and pedestrian access on all streets. I think it's critical that we get a handle on, the status of sidewalks throughout the city. I'm not sure if we even have that inventory. My experience has been that a lot of times there's a lot of inventory done, but sidewalks seem to be one of those things that kind of slip through the cracks. And then my other comment is, I'm just wondering if when we look at recommendations for speed limit, is it a blanket comment for all streets, or will there be a hierarchy of recommendations for speed limits, arterials versus residential streets, those types of things?
Okay. Mary, do you have a comment?
Oh, Mary Lou, you're muted.
Oh, you got your hand up.
I think the really key statement in that is number one, prioritize people over vehicles. And I really strongly support that. If that is the goal, that's a huge, huge change for us and for all towns, because vehicles have always been number one. And I think you guys have really done an excellent job with this. I strongly support it. And I don't think it should just be filed away in a back file because it's a little bit challenging. I think it needs to be put out there and in front of the city council and everybody else in town. Good job.
Okay, Robert, you have your hand up?
Yes, sir. Following up on Commissioner Trout's comment regarding the arterial hierarchy versus the blanket statement on the 25 miles an hour. Probably new to the commission and don't understand, how the commission previously looked at arterial routes such as El Camino Real or Lucadia between El Camino and the freeway, and or Encinitas Boulevard from El Camino Real to the freeway ingress and egress throughout the city. So there are some pinch points, and the infrastructure has been designed to handle volume down Liebenheim Road or Rancho Santa Fe Road, whatever you want to call it. So that was just wanted to follow up on her comment also. Thank you.
Okay, I think we've heard from all the commissioners. I do have a couple of additional comments here. You mentioned what speed limit should be in town. Obviously, there are streets that the circulation element will call, the circulation part of the mobility element will consider to be circulation element streets. And if we can't get them down to 25 with speed limit signs, we can do things like roundabouts, roadway modifications, rumble strips, whatever it takes to tame the traffic a little bit. It's difficult that we can't teach people courtesy. They can't even pick up their own trash sometimes. But we want to prioritize Encinitas as a residential community rather than a shortcut to someplace else. Certainly, we want to encourage visitors to use our shops and stores, and we're offering our beaches, something that anyone in the county can use the beaches, and we want to make it easy for them and safe for everyone. Comment as to what to do with this, because there is a workshop on the mobility element through Zoom tomorrow evening. I'm sure everyone knows about that. It was postponed from last week because they decided they couldn't do it in person at the community center. I'm thinking that I want to get our comments added to the comments that come into that meeting, and also copy it to the city council as a commission, as the feeling of the Traffic and Safety Commission, but perhaps that's a different matter.
Chair, this is, I'm sorry, Glenn, this is Abe. Just to reiterate, this is a presentation only item. So I think we are way past that whole just ask a question and answer procedure that we have. I do have the standing item for the mobility element update at the traffic log. So I would suggest we accept the presentation as was given by Commissioner Johnson, and then with regards to how to pass this to the consultant tomorrow night, we can discuss it at the traffic log item or at the commissioner item.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks, Abe. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Because we can't make any kind of a motion or any kind of a discussion or recommendation at the presentation state.
Okay, so we'll accept the item. Glenn, thank you for that presentation, and Michael, thanks for getting this all put together. Let's see, we've got your updates, Abe.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So the first item I have tonight is the Encinitas Boulevard project. This was added to the log last month, and I asked the planner in charge of the project to provide us a presentation. Let me see how I can share my screen. Do you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. After discussing this with the planner in charge of the project, my direction from the development service, the new development services director, was that since this is just an information only item, and we don't want to set a precedent in having to bring every planning project to the Traffic Commission. It's better that these cases, the planning department just provides me some information about the project, and then I present them to you. And if the commission needs more information, they can contact the planning department directly and discuss any question or any comment with the planner, or do a follow-up at a future meeting. With that said, I received a few slides from the planner. I'm going to go over Encinitas Boulevard Apartments. This is the location at the corner of Encinitas Boulevard and Rancho Santa Fe. This is 4 different lots, as you can see on the aerial. There are some boundary adjustments for merging all those 4 together. A density bonus, the project applied for density bonus. I'll talk about the numbers, and it's going only through design review. The project is CEQA exempt, as I'll mention further down. So the existing project will be demolished. 277 units. This number changed a few times. I heard 280 and 277, but it's about this number. 41 affordable units and 237 regular market rate. The project is by right, meaning it's one of our housing element sites that I haven't been involved much in the whole legal process, but apparently due to some sort of a court order, there are certain properties in town that are considered by right R30 zones, and those projects are CEQA exempt, and we do not go through the standard California Environmental Quality Act environmental review process for those projects. They only have to meet with certain goals of the general plan, and they only go through the design review process. The base density of this project based on the R30 was 205. They had to provide 20% affordable units, which is 41. Many of these are way above my planning knowledge, but I'll try to go through. Hopefully, if you have questions about the planning terms, Chair here can help us understand these more. These are the government codes that they had to comply. The first government code talks about what is a by right project, the Housing Accountability Act, and the density bonus law that this project had to abide by. The R30 overlay, the standard municipal code of the city, the design guidelines that we have for the design review purposes, and the general plan, the goals that we have, and the environmental assessments. This is again not CEQA. This is the general plan goals that the project should meet the goals set in our general plan, and obviously the municipal code. With regards to the traffic impacts, these are the 3 axes of the project. This is Rancho Santa Fe. If I don't know, you can see my mouse icon, right? This is Rancho Santa Fe, and this is Encinitas Boulevard. If you can't see, then so the project has 2 axes on Rancho Santa Fe that are only emergency access, so there will not be regular daily vehicular traffic. It's just for emergency purposes. I'm not sure if there's going to be a gate or any kind of a fencing or any kind of a separation from the road. I don't know how the fire department will access, but these are not regular daily commute accesses. The main access will be through McCain Lane, and the project will build a traffic signal at Encinitas Boulevard and McCain Lane intersection. And we had some concerns with the proximity of these 2 signals, the McCain Lane future signal and the Rancho Santa Fe signal. The developer is responsible for restriping Encinitas Boulevard to accommodate for the turn pockets required and the capacity at the 2 intersections needed for these 2 to operate. The timing of the 2 intersections and how the 2 controllers work together is also the responsibility of the consultant of the developer. They have to provide us all the timing sheets and everything to optimize how these two intersections are coordinated and work together. This is the trip generation table of the project. As you can see here, the number changes to 283, but it's about 276, somewhere between 283 and 277. I'm not sure which one is the final number. Based on Sandag's trip generation rate, the project will generate around 1,700 trips. 8% of those would be during AM peak and 9% would be during PM peak. The number of trips generated during the morning peak would be 27 trips in and 109 trips out. In the PM peak, we'll have 107 trips going in and 46 trips coming out. And these are based on Sandag numbers. These are not numbers that are proposed by a developer. These are standard numbers that everybody in the county uses. And based on those numbers and the daily traffic generated by the project, the vehicle overcapacity on Encinitas Boulevard remains at a level of service C or better, which there is no impact to the corridor. The two intersections that we have, the two signals, the McCain Lane, the Candy Lane new signal, and then the Rancho Santa Fe signal, there has been some analysis by the consultant over how the signal will operate. That being said, this will certainly be revised when the actual signal is being built. New counts will be taken, new models will be done, and we will have to make sure that the signal, when turned on, is working at the most optimized situation. So, but that being said, the level of service at McCain Lane, based on current models, seems like it's going to be at a reasonable A or B level during AM and PM peak. How it will impact Rancho Santa Fe intersection obviously is our main concern. We do know that that intersection standing alone can easily operate. We just want to make sure the impact on Encinitas Boulevard is minimized. So more on that when the actual signal is going to be turned on, if the project is approved and goes through. The project did go through the last meeting at Planning Commission, but as far as I know, there was no votes on it and it was continued. I'm not sure what the next step is. I'm waiting to hear about the next meeting, which I think will be later this month. The last slide is, as I mentioned, we have 205 units and 35% density bonus. There are some concessions and waivers that the developer is allowed to ask for based on city codes, and apparently they have asked for 2 concessions and 3 waivers. What those are, I don't exactly know, but they're more about like the number of units being built and the height and everything that they are requesting concessions and waivers for. The number of parking, apparently they're providing more than the state law requires them to provide. That's the level of information I received. There were some more slides that were like very pure planning slides that I really didn't know anything about to provide you. I would have to just read it without knowing what they are. So I removed those and I just kept the ones that I thought we could discuss. And if you have questions on those, I can get more information on them. So with that, I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, Ed. Commissioners, questions? Commissioner Prendergast.
Thank you, Chairman. Quick question, Abe. How does the lack of CEQA review would affect, if this part, let me ask you the question again. If you were to apply CEQA protocols to this, how would the conclusions change?
Good question. So when it comes to CEQA, usually we just don't ask for evaluating the immediate adjacent access of the project. With CEQA, we ask for all the impacted intersections, all the impacted roadway segments in this case. I mean, the developer did provide us, for example, the intersection of Rancho Santa Fe and Encinitas Boulevard. Technically speaking, just based on the law, the language of the law, even the intersection of Rancho Santa Fe and Encinitas Boulevard didn't need to be studied. That was one of the arguments from the developer side, that by law, since this is just a design review, you only have to review my driveways, my access points. Why am I studying Rancho Santa Fe and Encinitas Boulevard intersection per se? Or roadway segments, like if this was a non-housing element site, that not a by right project, we would see where those 1,700 trips go. And as long as those trips impact an intersection 50 trips per hour or whatever the threshold is, I'm going off of memory, that intersection would need to be studied. Let's say Rancho Santa Fe and 7th, for example, Lone Jack. Right. If these trips get up there and more than 50 or 100 of these trips, of these 700 trips, impact that intersection has to be studied per CEQA, per our guidelines. But in this case, the only I guess details of the project that needs to be studied are the design elements of the project, just the access and immediate intersections of the project. That's one of the cases. And then the whole level of service impact, delay impact, all those, if we have a goal set in our general plan, like for example, we don't have any kind of a delay goal in the general plan. There is no vehicle over capacity threshold in the general plan that talks about if your project is adding this much delay or lowering the speed on the roadway because of congestion by this much, then it doesn't meet the goal of the general plan. There are not such goals. We only have a level of service, goal of level of service D. That's the only thing that I think we have in our general plan. So if the project can prove that the immediate access meets that goal of the general plan, then there's no impact that needs to be evaluated or reviewed. Again,
so it narrows the scope of the review. So we're only now basically studying the impact of 283 units in a single family neighborhood on one intersection without identifying impacts further away from the site.
That is correct.
And we're talking about a neighborhood that has one ingress and two ingresses and two egresses. And so we're putting, I understand, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds here, but second question I have real quick is it normal or is it reasonable, to your point about the intersection, the ingress and egress on, I guess it's Candy or McLean to Rancho Santa Fe Road? Under your analysis, whether CEQA or not, there's no impact between having basically two stoplights 100 feet apart.
So since we are on record, let me answer the first part of your questions. Our fire department was involved and the traffic team was involved. It's not like if we also have the goal of, I don't know about the exact language of the goal in the general plan, but we do have the safety concern as a goal. So if the project in any way constitutes a risk or danger to the community, it is still possible for not going through the CEQA, but for the staff to stop a project. So it's not that just because the project is by right, they could impose a risk to the community. That being said, we don't anticipate, by we I mean the city staff, we don't anticipate a lot of traffic coming out of this project utilizing Rancho Santa Fe. The majority of the trips generated based on our estimates utilizes Encinitas Boulevard or Manchester going toward the freeway or going toward town. There is a very limited, I think the distribution that we agreed on had less than 10% or about something about that utilizing Rancho Santa Fe. There are no accesses onto Rancho Santa Fe other than emergency access. So that part about adding this many trips on a corridor that has only one ingress and egress, I do get your concern, but the project does not have access to Rancho Santa Fe and will not be dumping additional traffic, not to a level that is concerning, at least to city staff. Otherwise, we would definitely bring the whole idea of community safety and the goal that the general plan has about ensuring development projects does not impact safety of the community. And as I said, our fire department was involved. There were discussions about emergency access, discussions about evacuation, and I'm not sure if this was asked or if there was a study that was provided by the developer. That's beyond traffic's purview, but we could the fire department could have asked for any kind of a study that would prove that evacuation will not be interrupted or will not be impacted by this project, and safety will not in any way be jeopardized. With regards to your second question about McCain Lane, I have had the experience of working with signals at close proximity. This one is around, I believe, 300 feet to 350 feet or something. It's not very, very rare. There are a lot of cities who have signals at this smaller of a distance. I do personally, just based on my experience, feel like it can work. It's not the end of the world. I have a feeling that if McCain Lane had a very, very high volume of traffic, that would have been a different story. But the fact that McCain has very limited, at the majority of the day, we will be serving McCain Lane at its minimum green, which is about 6 seconds. So it's not like the flow of Encinitas Boulevard will be impacted with the yellow interval and the all red. We're probably looking at interrupting Encinitas Boulevard for about 10 seconds, other than peak periods, of course. During peak periods, we probably have to serve McCain Lane a little bit more than that. But as you saw the table, during peak hour, we're anticipating around 110 trips during a full hour, which is about like 3 vehicles per minute or something. So it's not we're going to stop Encinitas Boulevard for like 20, 30 seconds to serve McCain Lane at any period. I don't see it happening even during a morning peak. I'm not going to sacrifice Encinitas Boulevard to serve McCain Lane. My timing will work in a way to optimize Encinitas flow. So if I have to, the technical term we have is force off. We are allowed to force a certain leg of the intersection off, send it to red, even though there are cars at that leg. That's something we do all the time at minor streets intersecting a major road with a signal. We do force them off at 8 seconds, 10 seconds, 12 seconds, just to optimize the flow of Encinitas Boulevard. If I notice at any time my left turn onto Rancho Santa Fe is being jeopardized because of the number of seconds of red that they're getting from McCain Lane, and they can't continuously make that left turn onto Rancho Santa Fe, I will limit the operation of McCain Lane. That's totally within my authority as a city traffic engineer to time the signal any way I like. So it's not like the developer has any right to say, oh no, you have to serve the residents of this project with a level of service A or B. I can make it F if I like. But the short answer to your question is I think it can work based on experience. It's not impossible.
Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah, Abe, I have to preface this by saying that when my father retired, he moved to a wonderful little community in the Sierra foothills named Paradise. And he had a wonderful double wide under a bunch of oak trees. Later on, of course, he moved on and passed. But a wildfire went through that community, and where certainly the place that he was living got turned into ash very instantly. And there was such chaos in evacuating that a lot of people died as a result of that chaos in evacuation. I'm wondering what kind of evacuation plan there is and what kind of drills are proposed to make sure that if a wildfire goes through Rancho Santa Fe and hits Olivenheim, that we speedily evacuate. I'm thinking about turning streets into one-way streets for a temporary duration and doing whatever can be done to route the traffic out. Given that, of course, along in those parts, there are a lot of horses, and you have long horse trailers that can hang up on roundabouts and things. I just don't want to see a disaster happening because of congestion from this project.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not sure if there has been any evacuation analysis or any study done by the developer. There might have been, but since we don't review those, I'm not aware of any.
Okay. Thank you, Glenn. Glenn, did you have other questions, or should I? It looks like Mary Lou has her hand up as well. Oh, all right, Commissioner Schultz.
I noticed in your report that there are a lot more parking places than there are apartments. Was the traffic study based on the number of apartments or the number of parking places that were provided?
No, the traffic study is based on the trips generated by the project, which is the number of houses, the number of apartments.
Because I doubt very much that he is just providing extra parking as just empty space, that in fact there will be people coming and going from those. Like and I guess part of my reasoning is that the earlier presentation was talking about an apartment across the street on Via Molina, where there are 2 bedrooms and 10 people living in it. Are we going to see that kind of bad behavior here? I'm very concerned about the number of people that are actually going to be living there and parking there and driving in and out of there.
Yeah, to be honest, there's no way for me to dictate anything on that or provide you any kind of a guess or estimate. Our standards only work off of the type of land use. The current standards in the county says if you're building an apartment, the anticipated number of trips generated by that apartment is 6 trips per day. That is a fixed number. No matter where you're building that apartment, what the size of your apartment is, how many parkings it's going to provide, that number 6 is a number 6. The number of trips that will be generated out of that apartment in the morning is defined, in the afternoon is defined, how many will be going into the apartment, how many will be going out of the apartment. All those percentages are also defined. Nothing is open to interpretation or discussion. Those numbers are fixed all over the county. Those are SANDAG numbers. So a six trips generated, I believe in the morning, as mentioned, 8% of those 6 trips, which is 0.48 trips, are in AM peak, or 9% or whatever. 9% is in the PM peak. And how many out of those? 8 of those go in, 2 of those go out, 7 of them go out in the afternoon. 7 of them go in the afternoon, 3 of them go out. All those numbers are provided by SANDAG for each. Like if you're building a house, the number would be different. The number of trips per day would be 10 if you're building a dwelling unit. So for each type of land use, we have a exact number. So these are not numbers that the developers provide us. We give them the table and they have to do the math off of that table.
Thank you.
All right, I won't.
Go ahead.
Sorry, guys. A couple quick questions with regards to the trip count. Is there any consideration to the ratio of bedrooms per unit? My understanding, this project will increase the number of 1 bedrooms per unit, which would probably increase the car count versus a 2-bedroom unit. So the more 1 bedrooms you have versus 2 bedrooms versus 3 bedrooms would be families. Do you see, is there any interpretation for the ratio of units per bedroom by SANDAG?
No. As I said, it's just based on land use. It says apartment, 6 trips per day. If it becomes condominium, for apartments and condominiums, it has a certain number of units per acre. I think if you go over a certain number of units per acre, you become an apartment. If you're below that, you become a condo. And then further down, you become a townhouse or a house. And the rates are different, but it doesn't talk about the number of bedrooms.
Okay. I also want to call out, and I don't know the exact, and I probably need to go back to the North County Transit Department, but my understanding is there is a bus stop here that comes once a day. So we're talking about putting 280 apartment units into a single family residential neighborhood. You can see this by the area. And there's no public transportation, whether it's morning or evening, that would really service the units. And I know that we as a commission are talking about bikes, we're talking about mobility, and we're basically forcing people into their cars to ingress and egress this location. Lastly, question for you, Abe. I don't know, I do travel Rancho Santa Fe Road in the mornings. I try to get to work down Manchester, and I come to this intersection, and now that road school is live, or will be live in 2 weeks. There is so much traffic turning left on Rancho Santa Fe Road, going into Rancho Santa Fe to the road school drop-off, that cars get stuck in the intersections. I know that's a road school issue, but it becomes clearly a traffic and mobility issue and a risk issue. And now we're talking about adding 280 units, which I know we can't do anything about because it's a by right density issue. Thank you, state of California. But that intersection is at the peak times, you cannot get through it. You cannot get through it because roads doesn't have buses and people are dropping their kids off. Whether it's hanging U-turns at Grangettos and BJ's, or trying to drop your kid off at the Harvest Ranch Shopping Center and run across the street. So I really do find it, as a resident who uses this intersection daily, I really kind of scratch my head that it's not impacted by 280 units going in on the corner with a stoplight 350 feet away when cars can't even get through Rancho Santa Fe Road and Encinitas Boulevard at peak times. And we're also talking about a traffic pattern in the afternoon that backs up northbound on Rancho Santa Fe Road at the town hall. So, it's really a head scratcher to me that it's not impactful. And I'm done.
Okay, anybody else? All right, Abe, what do we have next? Looks like development projects citywide, stop sign installations.
Yes, Chair, thank you. Let me pull up my notes. Development project citywide. We have offered Bob's position to a new engineer that will be joining us later this month. So hopefully, starting next month, I'll bring him in and introduce him to you, and then start the summary sheet for our development projects going on citywide. I am utilizing our outside consultant right now for reviewing development projects. That piece of our responsibility is outsourced at the moment. The stop sign installations, so the commission approved several locations, and then council reviewed and approved those, and I'm told that they are all installed. Lacosta and Vulcan stop signs at that location. We also added stop aheads, because we did hear that certain residents, mainly eastbound, which you anticipate are non-residents coming from Carlsbad that are not familiar, are not stopping at the stop sign, which could be because it's new, and within a few weeks they'll learn that there is a new stop sign there. But we didn't want to risk it, so we quickly went out there, and I'm told that it was installed today. So we now have pavement legends in both directions that says a stop ahead. Via Cantabria at Target driveway, that a stop sign is installed. We are working on adding a new ramp for the soccer field there, and build a new crosswalk. We're actively working on that. Paseo de las Flores and Cypress Hills, that always stop control is installed. The one on Berkshire at Somerset, that one installed. Glaucus and Orpheus, and Blue Heron and Bonnie Bluff, those two also, the minor street stop has been installed. We are working on Olympus Park. I do have another item on the agenda on my presentation. Olympus Park is striping because of the park. We are working with our Public Works Department, our Parks and Recreation Department to add a new striping on Olympus. It was impacted by the park that was recently built and opened. So we are trying to modify the striping to keep the current parking capacity that we have, but ensuring that the flow of traffic remains safe and minimally impacted by the parking spaces that we have over there. There are some red curbings that we will need to add to create a more clean and clear situation for people who come to use the park. But that is to minimize the impact on the neighborhood. That is not yet implemented, but we are working on that. Neptune Avenue enforcement, a minor update to the commission. I was asked last time to check why Sheriff's Department has made a few enforcement attempts for bikers riding in the wrong direction. I did check, and this was not passed to our Sheriff's Department from the city. Apparently, this was a direct request from several residents off Neptune to the Sheriff's Office. South Coast Highway 101 improvements updates. Recently, after a few months of delay, we were finally able to receive the lower size, which were the correct size on the plans for the bollards on the cycle track. And the contractor went out there and replaced them with the correct size. There has been some rumors and conversations I heard around about the city double paying or paying extra for this replacement. I just wanted to clarify for the commission that the city did not pay anything for this. This was just a mistake on the contractor side. The plans all along showed the correct size for the bollards. It was just installed with the wrong size, and then it was replaced. Unfortunately, COVID hit, and this took a very, very long time with the shortage of material and the whole COVID story, which I'm sure you're aware. But yeah, long story short, they are now replaced with the correct size, which will not hit lower riders' bike handles. North Coast Highway 101, the phase 2 of the cycle track, we have started doing our analyses and surveys and checking the different cross sections that we have over there. I will try to bring a very, very preliminary concept to the commission next month that will show you what our options are at different segments of 101 south of Swami's all the way to Chesterfield, to see what we can achieve with the amount of right-of-way that we have. I'm optimistic that we should have a better situation compared to the phase 1 because of the increased width that we have in this area and the fact that we only have one lane in each direction. So you should, well, most of it, we have one lane in each direction. North of Chesterfield, obviously, we have 2 lanes, but I think we have more room. So I am trying to see if we can achieve the possibility of having both a bike lane and a class 4 so that our sports cyclists or anybody who wants to ride in a regular class 2 bike lane can utilize that bike lane and leave the class 4 for slower cyclists, families, or whoever wants to use that protection. Vulcan Avenue and Lacosta. So we are hiring a consultant to study Lacosta Avenue holistically with all the projects that are going on Lacosta and the stop sign that was recently installed and Sheridan intersection and Vulcan intersection and the 101, see how those 3 intersections can work together and evaluate different scenarios for intersection control. The options I've requested, scenarios I've requested the consultant to evaluate is possibility of a roundabout, a signal at these intersections, and and play with different scenarios, kind of like Rancho Santa Fe study, to see how different traffic controls would work, check feasibility, check how the operation will work. For example, if we make Sheridan an all-way stop and convert Vulcan Lacosta to a signal, or put a roundabout at Vulcan Lacosta and convert Sheridan to a signal, or both of them roundabouts, how these two will work together. So a corridor analysis that will give us a better idea about what we want to do. Also, Vulcan Avenue will be studied. The consultant will evaluate our traffic calming plan, the one that we currently have with the lane narrowing and the raised crosswalks, to see if they can provide us additional ideas for traffic calming on Vulcan, and make adjustments to the current plan. It's a very short study, so I anticipate just 2 to 3 months. So I should be able to come to the commission maybe in October with the findings and present the results of the study before going to council in November. Traffic Division's annual budget, another task I had. Let me share my screen again. Another task I had from the commission was to provide a idea of what our budget is and what we're getting. So do you see this? Does the commission see this?
Yes.
Yep. So these are, I asked Christine Roos, our senior budget analyst, to give me a summary of our annual budget and what we get and how it's usually being spent. So this is the summary. I don't have how much we have in those accounts right now, but this gives you the idea of what the division has and what we're utilizing. So we get around $300K a year for general mobility improvement. This is not only traffic projects. This can be used by us and CIP. So let's say a cycle track is being built and CIP is short on auxiliary money. They can tap into this account and utilize some of this for auxiliary. So it's not just pure traffic projects, but generally speaking, this is usually their last pocket of money that they tap into. Our CIP team generally has better and bigger pockets to use. They tend to leave this for traffic, but it has happened that that CIP uses this. We usually use it for a variety of projects: our bike improvements, our striping plans, our buffers, crosswalks, RFBs. This is kind of like a joker card. We can use it for a lot of different projects and different expenses. This has the most flexibility in our division's budget. Installation of innovative bike lanes, we get $75,000 for that. We usually, as the title of the account we use it for innovative bike lanes, for sharrows, for bollards, for widening buffers, for any kind of a signage, any kind of a bike striping that it doesn't necessarily need to be innovative. The word is there, but basically anything that we think our bicycle facilities can benefit from, we utilize this funds. So as you can see, previous fiscal year, we've used it for new bike lanes, new buffers, and shares. Traffic safety and calming, this is, although it's a small number, but this is kind of like the bread and butter. We do a lot of safety and calming projects, the speed cushions, the signage, pavement legends, the speed limits, speed radar feedback signs, RFPs. A lot of these, we utilize this account. That's why this year I asked for a little bit more budget, and instead of the usual 75, we were given 100,000. But that's the account that is used for most of our traffic calming projects.
Hey, Abe, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to ask if you and my fellow commissioners mind if I could excuse myself from the meeting. My wife and I brought our baby home today, this afternoon, and I think I need to attend to some baby duties. So if you don't mind, if I could, put Vice Chair Benson in charge of the rest of the meeting. I think I weighed in on my thoughts on the comments earlier, which you'll discuss later in the follow-up log. But again, I would normally stick around, but I think just today I need to excuse myself. If
Gotta
that's
go.
all right.
Gotta go.
Out of here.
Congratulations.
Out of here now.
Go.
Okay. Thank you all. Appreciate it. I'll look forward.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What's the name of the child?
Haley.
Great.
Beautiful.
When was it born?
She was born Saturday evening. We just got home this afternoon.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Congratulations, Brian.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. I'll see y'all soon.
Take care.
Okay. So you get to be the chair, Commissioner Benson, on your last meeting, or did he already leave us?
I'm here.
Okay. Yes, traffic signal modification. So we get around 50,000. We get exactly 50,000. And as again, the title says, it's just for modifying our signals whenever we have any kind of a signal timing adjustment, whenever we want to slightly modify, add like a permissive left turn somewhere, or modify it to protect it if the budget allows. Certain traffic software for monitoring our signals, detectors, loops, pedestrian push buttons, or something like that. We use that 50,000. Safe routes to school, that's 200,000. Although it calls, the title is Safe Routes to School, but it's mostly pedestrian improvement, and that budget is almost 99% of the time used by our CIP team to build sidewalks in the city. The traffic team rarely touches this account. It's usually, as mentioned in the description, it's used for sidewalk improvements. And then another 50,000 for ADA curb ramp projects. This is used by various teams. We use it, our CIP team uses it, and our risk management also. If there is something that they want us to build, they contact us and utilize this fund. As the title says, this is only used for building ADA curb ramps at existing locations, or if we're introducing a new project, let's say the new stop sign at Target Driveway wants to get a new crosswalk and we have to install a ramp, we can tap into this account and use the portion of the project that is about building that ADA ramp from this account. That's basically all the money that the division has annually for various different traffic projects that we do. Any big project, obviously, we do go to council as during our work plan review and approval by council, and we introduce those projects and we tell them, hey, this is a project that we have, and then they can find it separately. But the ongoing annual budget is the ones that you can see here. With that, I'm open to questions.
Glenn Johnson here. Abe, are we able to supplement some of this with grants and things, or are we not applying for a lot of grants?
We do have several grants ongoing right now. After this item further down my monthly updates, I will talk about our grants and provide updates to the commission. But we do have at the moment, I think 4 or 5 ongoing grants. The money from those comes separate. They have their own dedicated accounts, depending on the city meeting a certain amount of match or not. We establish those match accounts to provide whatever percentage, 10%, 5%, 15%. Usually the city match is pretty small, rarely goes over 10%. A lot of times there's no city match either. So, but I'll update the commission.
Commissioner Von Neumann here with a quick question for Abe. Abe, when you were talking about new stop signs being installed and how come, like, Who makes a decision about what type of stop sign? Because I've seen some that have flashing lights around them and they're very attention getting. And I was thinking that something like that at new, busy intersections might be helpful. Like, who decides what type? Is it all driven by the amount of money or what?
We, as far as I know, we usually only use standard stop signs, which are not illuminated or there are no flashing lights or anything on them. We do these flashing ones on a rare case-by-case basis. Usually we don't want to install them at like areas where there are residential windows or there is any kind of a potential for a public nuisance. It can hurt somebody living in the area or any other reason that these might not be wanted. Maintenance is a concern. Many of those do require power be taken to them. Some of them have solars, some of them don't. We don't like to put them where there is enough lighting. If there is enough lighting there, if there is a post close by, the flashing will not really be visible that much. But to your question, I don't think any of the new ones that we added were flashing, unless there was one. Like, yeah, I don't think so. I don't think there was one. There was one that we converted to flashing, but it wasn't any of these ones.
Okay,
but
thank you.
Question, I make the decision, and if there is a location that you think in the city we can benefit from that, I can certainly look into it.
Well, I was, this is Commissioner Von Neumann again, I was thinking specifically for the new intersection of Vulcan and Lacosta. It might make people more attentive to that. But also, is it possible for Amanda to send us this funding source sheet?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Capri and Burgundy, this went on to our log last time. I did look into the minutes and the notes we took from the commission. Commission asked us to revisit this. I did take a look at it myself, and I went out there once myself too. I've been there before. I really couldn't identify, because we did a survey for speed cushions there, and we did add the crosswalk and the RFB. I'm not sure if there are any other options that I have other than requesting Sheriff's Office to have a little bit more presence there, especially during the school pickup drop-off times, to assure that drivers drive within the speed limit. But if Commission has any suggestions or ideas for evaluation, please let me know. Otherwise, I can keep it on the log, but I really don't know what else we can do there. They can talk more about this, because I think this is on the log too. And the grant updates, as was brought up. So we currently have several different grants, highway safety improvement program grants from the state. A few of them I mentioned last time that we're working on. We have a $720,000 grant for building the phase 2 of the cycle track north of Chesterfield all the way to Swami's, including the whole protected facilities and bike lanes if we can have them, slurry off the road, ballers, wheel stops, everything that we want to do there. We have another $730,000 to build a walkway right by Solana Beach from the state parking access to the city of Solana Beach on the west side. Currently, people have to walk and run, and if they do jogging or running, they do it in the cycle track. So with this, we will connect the beach, the state beach, to the sidewalk that is currently on the west side of Solana Beach, city of Solana Beach. We do have another $1.3 million or $1.2 million to upgrade all of the signals in the city to the new state-of-the-art traffic controllers, the 2070 controllers. All of the signals in the city with that budget will be upgraded. We'll have the opportunity to do a lot more with our signals, including LPIs, the lead pedestrian intervals, where a pedestrian, when they push a button, they kind of start crossing the intersection before the parallel vehicle gets their green. So the concern is when the vehicle gets their green, they might turn right and block the pedestrians from crossing. If we give the pedestrians that extra few seconds of green in advance, then the cars are still facing red while the pedestrians get into the crosswalk and occupy the crossing, so the cars won't be able to turn right anymore. So that LPI, we can do that with upgrading our signals to 2070s. That is also a grant that does not have a match. The first two, the first two that had 720 and 730, the city has to provide a 10% match, which is about $70,000. But the rest is on the state. The last one, the 1.2, 1.3, there is zero match. It's all state money. We have the citywide street light upgrades for traffic signals and our regular roadway lights. Those ones we have around another 700,000 that we're using to upgrade multiple corridors of the city to LEDs from old low pressure sodium and high pressure sodiums. I think we only have high pressure sodiums. We have a few smaller grants around one. We have a $500,000 grant to upgrade 4 of our signals in the city, give them protected left turns. One is Lacosta at Vulcan. One is Vulcan at Encinitas Boulevard. One is the Santa Fe at Hospital signal. And the last one is Lacosta at Quail. Those 4 intersections will be getting protected left turns from the current permissive situation. We have 2 or 3 other grants that we've passed our CIP, but they're traffic grants. We have 2 pedestrian signals similar to what we have on Swami's that we got around 400,000 that we gave to CIP. They're utilizing that in the streetscape project. They're using that money there to build those 2 pedestrian signals. And the last one with the Z crossing, we have around $500,000 for the signal between Encinitas Boulevard and Via Molina on El Camino Real to build the crossing there with a pedestrian signal. That is in design. We recently asked for construction money. The design is 90% plus, so we shouldn't start construction on that before the end of the year. And also the study that was presented to the commission last month, or was it the month before, the LRSP, the Local Roadway Safety Plan, that's just $80,000, but the study is also grant funded. We're only using $8,000 of the city. The remaining $72,000 is coming from the state. That concludes my updates. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Excuse me, also we have 1 speaker, so I don't know if you want to go ahead with that now.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, so bear with me. It's Christine Schindler, East Encinitas. So I have a couple of things that I wanted to mention. So I think I'm just going to jump around even though I had certain items. So I wanted to say well done with the mobility element and what Glenn and Michael put together. I think it's a pretty comprehensive short list. And so I encourage you guys to make sure that Evan and his team pay attention to you and pay attention to that. Abe, I don't mean to add to the length of the meeting, but I really appreciate these meetings. I learn a lot, and you had a long list of updates, and it's good to hear there's a lot of great things going on. So I appreciate your hard work, and I'm glad to hear you have a new engineer coming in to help you out. I wanted to let you know that the two of the folks from Public Works are coming to our next Encinitas Bike Walk meeting. So if any of you want to join us, I think we'll get a view into what they do so that we understand it a bit more. So we're making appropriate requests. So that meeting's the last Tuesday of the month, and we start at 5:30, and we're still Zooming like you guys. So any and all of you are welcome to come to those meetings. Just reach out to Michael and let him know, and he'll forward you the meeting invite. Marty, I didn't know you were coming off commission. I checked and it said you're supposed to be on till March, but maybe something changed. So thank you for being on the commission and your part in it. I appreciate your view and the way you add to the voice of the commission. Thank you so much, Robert, for bringing up bus and transit with that Encinitas apartment project. So happy to hear that, because so many times we're just thinking cars, bikes, and pedestrians. So I appreciate you bringing up the reality of one bus stop, one route. I really wish that NCTD could increase the amount of transit bus traffic that we have. So I'm glad that's in the conversation. This is probably an outside conversation with Abe, but looking at the budget information about the safe routes, you know, the 200K that we have annually, interesting to hear that's mostly spent on sidewalks. So I'm like the non-infrastructure lady that keeps bringing up education, encouragement. So that's kind of, I'm gonna revisit a prior conversation I had about the city and funding for safe routes, non-infrastructure. So thanks for the clarification and the mention there. I appreciate what you've done on South Coast Highway 101 to do further improvement. So the changes in the bollards, you know, the taking out some of the hardscape for a turning lane by Las Olas, the pavement markings, I think that's all been good improvements. You cannot please everybody, and that's been a hard project on you, I know, and you've consumed the social media, and you've tried to talk to what you're now calling the sports cyclists, which I think is a good descriptor instead of professional cyclists. And God love you for trying to do that, Abe. So I like hearing what you're talking about for the north section, and I think that's great if you can preserve the bike lane and then still have a separated facility. You know, it's going to make everyone more happy, and that will consume less of your time. And you know, I think we have the pavement to be able to do that. So I'm cheering you on, and however we can help. I think that was it. So just know there's one person at least listening in and cheering you on. And Mary, I could see your expression when you were watching the video, and it's nice, right, that Judy and Dadla and some familiar faces are in that video. So I'm real happy that that video was done, and Nick Buck with Park and Rec did a fantastic job pulling it together in the Bike Coalition. So I'm glad we have another tool in our toolbox. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Do we have any comments or questions on the engineer updates? I'll shoot. I have one question. I love the LPI, and this is sort of like Michael's question from earlier. Is that going to be applied universally around town, or is it going to be selectively applied?
So you always ask the questions that cannot be answered, Marty. So to put it in a officially presentable manner, since it's a grant from Caltrans, we are getting the money with the promise of implementing LPI at all those 50-some locations that we're getting the money for. So technically, we are audited at the end of the program where the $1.2, $1.3 million is given to the city, and we have to provide a operating plan at those signals that LPI is operational. Now, that being said, that does not necessarily mean that we have to have the LPI running 24/7.
Understood. Thanks. And if there are no comments or questions, we can move to approving the minutes. Does anybody have any modifications to those?
I had a quick question on the minutes. We discussed last meeting the changes that were requested by Abe from city manager and city staff. Do the minutes accurately reflect that conversation? I haven't had a chance. I guess the package came out, and I apologize, but I know that there was a long discussion over the suggestions written up. So I know we didn't approve those at the time. Do the minutes reflect that?
Amanda, can you shed some light on this? Well, I'm not sure. Is that about the title change and the role of the commission change, or no, about something else?
No, that's right, Abe. We had a long conversation about the memo that you had written and the title change and the roles and responsibilities of the commission. And I wasn't sure if, then we voted on that, and I believe either we continued it or it wasn't passed. So I was just curious if in the notes or the minutes that I have here, if that's reflected.
Amanda can correct me if I'm wrong. As far as I know, commission voted to just do the name change. Right. I think it was Commissioner Schultz's motion to just do the name change and don't change anything else at the moment with regards to the whole work plan and roles and responsibilities of the commission, which that should have gone into the minutes. Amanda, can you confirm?
Yeah, sorry, I'm pulling that up right now. So that is what I remember as well. Sorry if I made a mistake on that one.
No, I don't. I was just looking at the notes here real quick, and I just didn't see.
Yeah.
We had adopted the name change, but not the other recommendation. So if you can point that in the minutes, then I'll be happy to vote on the minutes.
Gotcha. This was for
I think it was the work providing the Traffic and Public Safety Commission work plan to the City Council. I believe it's noted in the notes. Provide direction to the staff on Traffic Commission's work plan to City Council. It talks about us preparing a work plan, but I don't know. If it reflected our conversation. Does anybody else have a thought there?
This Commissioner Von Neumann, I do not see that in the minutes where, there's no mention of what we had approved on Mary's motion to just change the name. And that's, in my opinion, that should be reflected in the minutes.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I'll go ahead and modify that. And should we just do you want to hold the vote until next?
I think we got to do that. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think one action item is missing. We had 2 action items last month. We only have 1 in the minutes. So we will bring back the minutes next month together with this one. Good catch, Commissioner Pendergast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. So we'll move on to action items. Let's talk about the local. Oh, hold on, excuse me. This is our work plan, correct? It's coming up.
So yes, let me pull up. This is really not something, not an action, not a agenda item that I would want to present. So What happened, if you, Amanda, can you share I'm trying to pull up the report.
I can share the report, sure.
So after our discussion last month about the whole work plan and taking it to the city council, which commission at that point mentioned that they rather treat it differently. I discussed this to our director, and apparently there is a Muni code that council has asked directors to return to council with the work plan. So there are two, I guess the work plan, the phrase is, there are two different, I guess, interpretations. There's one work plan that we take to council once a year. By we, I mean the department. We're right now, the name has changed. Our department is now called Infrastructure and Sustainability. We're not a part of development services anymore. So we take to the city council, which later this month, the first version of that work plan will be presented. We are showing all of our future projects and potential projects and all the costs associated with those, and ask council to basically bless that list. And if there is any other project they want to add to that work plan, if there is anything that they want to remove from that work plan, they can do at that point, and they can basically talk about the different pots of money that we have and how we are spending them during the fiscal year. That's our work plan. My plan was, when I brought it to the commission last month, to take our log or any other list of projects that commission has in mind and include that in that work plan, to say, okay, these are the projects that the commission wants us to do, and then get council's blessing for those projects. Now, commission at that point mentioned that they'd rather keep it leave it open, and to be able to discuss different projects and talk about different projects, and just go to council as the projects come. And if there is something that, like, let's say that the topic that we just talked about the preferential parking in a neighborhood. So we evaluated, commission says it's a good idea. We do see the impact that non-residents have on this neighborhood. Please take it to council and ask for the money associated with this and do this. So this would be a project that is not on the work plan that we are presenting to commission later this month as a part of department work plan. So this is, from what I remember from last month, was commission's idea, that we want to keep it fluid. We want to be able to introduce new projects or talk about projects. The project that we're currently studying, that Commissioner Van Neumann brought up to our attention, about some potential locations for race crossings. We're collecting data for those. We will evaluate, we'll come back to commission, present those. Commission would say, oh, these several locations, we like the idea of race crossing, take it to council and see what council says about it. So that's the plan that we have, because we didn't change the way we operate last month. We just changed the name. However, that being said, we have the municipal code. That was the direction I received from my director. We have a municipal code that says each board, commission, or committee is allowed to adopt their regulations, but they should adopt and prepare. They should adopt a resolution and prepare a work plan and present it in an annual report to the city council. Now, from what I'm told, this work plan that's mentioned in the Muni Code is not necessarily a list of projects, but we have to create some sort of a resolution, create some sort of a report to the city council, and tell council that this year, these are the stuff that we're going to work on. Now, I brought it to the commission to see if commission can come to a consensus to decide, are we going to just announce any kind of like a vision to council? Are we going to create like a list of projects or topics? Maybe we can just eliminate any kind of location and just mention topics. But this is our work plan this year. We want to talk about these things. I don't know. This is commission's work plan. This is something that you would have to, I guess, come to a consensus and then tell me to take to council as the resolution of the traffic commission. So I'm open to any kind of ideas, but I was told by my director that we have to take this work plan. Again, it's not necessarily like the last work plan that I explained. It doesn't need to have a dollar amount, doesn't need to have a specific description about a list of projects, but some sort of a work plan, anything that commission thinks that is our work plan for this fiscal year, provide me input and I'll put it together and take it to council. Please let me know if there are any questions.
All right, let's open it up to discussion. Commissioner Schultz, you appear to be muted.
No, I'm not. I think that work plan was basically put together by the subcommittee report that was the opening of the entire discussion this morning. I think our work plan is basically to prioritize people over vehicles, to prioritize the use of city streets by residents, visitors, and businesses, and to prioritize the safety of the most vulnerable residents. I think those three are a very clear plan. I just would like to toss that out to begin with, that it's already been done, and our subcommittee did a really fabulous job of doing that. And then it leaves it open to specific projects, and it sets goals in a general way that I think we all agree on.
All right, Commissioner Johnson.
Do we have any previous work plan from this commission to start from, to look at?
Very, very good question, Commissioner. Unfortunately, the first 2 years that I've been here, I don't think anybody on this commission was present at that point. You might have followed the commission at that point. There used to be a joint session between the traffic commission and the city council once a year, where this whole work plan idea was being discussed at that meeting. And there were topics that between the commissioners and the city council members would come up, and those 2 or 3 or 4 ideas and concepts or goals would become the work plan of the commission. And the minutes from that meeting, that joint session, will basically certify, that work plan that was confirmed and agreed upon at that meeting. We haven't been able to have that meeting these past 2 years, a year and a half, I guess. So that's why it kind of got complicated. Like from what I remember, there was once that council and commission discussed, and they decided to create a Vision Zero inspired goal approach for the city to go for finding safety concerns in the city and trying to address them with some sort of a citywide approach. So we went after this grant and got this consultant who is studying all the intersections in the city and going to provide us an action plan of all the improvements needed in the city to make the city safer. So this grant that we have, the LRSP, is the result of that work plan. We did go over the city, it was presented to the commission a few times. So although you heard it this year, it comes from a work plan that was generated in 2020, I think. But we haven't had anything last year.
Okay, I think that's a short way of saying no. Maybe a long way. I think a work plan is a good idea from a management point of view, because it prevents us from going down rat holes where we reach a decision that obviously the council won't approve. But I think we need to have that joint session with the council in order to help develop a work plan.
I can make the request, chair can do it too, like on behalf of the commission, to send something to the council that would like to have a joint session to be able to provide work plan that we are sure that council likes. Can do it either way.
Commissioner Von Neumann?
Yeah, Commissioner Von Neumann here. I did attend that meeting, that council, and at the time, Traffic and Public Safety Commission meeting. And there was a Vision Zero inspired discussion, and also mode shift discussion. What can be done in the city to actually achieve mode shift, which basically means enhancing bicycle, pedestrian, and other means of mobility rather than personal autos and trucks. So I think that was, I do remember that. As far as a work plan goes, this is my opinion. I like what Mary Lou was saying, that basically we have an outline of what it is that we do. And I would add, respond to citizens' input. I think that's a very important part of it should be in our work plan. So, prioritizing alternative means of transportation, prioritizing people over cars. I think that's all a very good work plan. It's very general. It doesn't tie us to anything. And I think that's good, because who knows what's going to happen next year? What pandemic is coming? You just don't know. So I don't think we can be very specific. So I think we can be general. And I think most of the people on the commission, we agree with the overall goals and objectives of making Encinitas safer for all types of mobility. So as far as developing a work plan, I don't think it's that difficult stating those things.
All right, Commissioner Trouth.
Yes, I want to support what Commissioner Schultz said with regard to the work plan, using what the subcommittees come up with. I guess the other thing I was just wondering is, what's the deadline? So what is the expectation as far as when we're supposed to have a work plan completed or recommendations for a work plan?
Yeah, our fiscal year is from July to June. So I would assume that we have to provide something at early stages of the fiscal year, I guess. And preferably it would have been before the start of the fiscal year, but I think it's not that late.
All right, Commissioner Prendergast.
I'll be brief. Also echo Commissioner Schultz's comments and Commissioner Von Neumann's comments regarding real-time reaction to citizenry and the issues around mobility and safety. That's still one of our considerations. So I echo that. Abe, is it possible to get a copy of someone else's work plan so that we're not looking, from starting from scratch? Is the Planning Commission or the Housing Commission or Parks and Rec completed a plan that we could then follow as a template?
Sure. Amanda, can you try to get something from our Environmental Commission or Park Commission? Or we can send them to you via email.
Yeah, thank you. Well, to the team, that'd be great.
Yes.
Great. Commissioner Von Neumann, did you have something else? You're muted.
Commissioner Von Neumann here. Who is going to write this work plan? And I am not volunteering. Thank you.
Commissioner Benson on the way out.
All right. Are there any other comments or questions on this? I'll just throw my 2 cents in. I think that I think the idea of using this this report that was developed by the subcommittee today is a great idea, or at the bare minimum, a good starting point. Just from a logistical perspective, Abe, what would be the next step here? Do we need to agendize this? Should we make a new subcommittee outside of Commissioner von Neumann's subcommittee, since he doesn't want to participate in the drafting of this document? Or
I mean, if there is consensus, if commission is sure that the mobility element update that we have is going to be the work plan of the commission this year, it doesn't need to become a separate action item. You can just vote for it, and then I'll present that to the city council as the commission's work plan.
Okay. Well, personally, I think that it's general and broad enough. I really like the sentiment and the themes that it portrays, and it's general enough that it's not going to stymie or hem us in at all, or you guys moving forward. So yeah, I think maybe a little bit more discussion would be good, and then we can entertain a motion. Commissioner Trouth.
I know I'm new on the commission, and I think what the subcommittee put together is really outstanding. There's just one item that I think is pretty specific, and it kind of concerns me, and that is it's 1A. I guess I would want to understand how we came up with 25 miles per hour, because last month when we talked about this, it was 30 miles per hour. So, I think this is a pretty substantial recommendation. So I guess I'm trying to understand where it came from, and it's pretty specific. So I'd like to entertain softening up that particular number there.
Okay, Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah, I'd like to answer that question. 25 is the limit in senior zones now, and in school zones when they're active, and it's a safer number than a larger number. It could be 23, it could be 28, but so it's a straw man number. The idea is that we want to focus on prioritizing the people, not the vehicles. If you want to go to Encinitas, slow down and smell the flowers. If you want to go to San Diego, get on the freeway and put your smog in Solana Beach. So 25 is just a straw man number, of course. Maybe Commissioner von Neumann would have a better comment on that.
Commissioner von Neumann here. 25 miles an hour is also in a residential area, and there is no reason for people have to drive faster than that, in my opinion, and in the opinion of people who do studies on what are safe speeds and what speeds reduce the amount of serious or fatal accidents. Some cities, I believe Boston in Massachusetts, has instituted a 25 mile an hour maximum speed in their city, and other cities are doing that. California, it's a little more difficult to do that. As I referred to, there may be some efforts in the California legislature to allow cities to not have, or so that cities are not tied to the 85th percentile rule. But 25 is an accepted speed in residential areas, school areas, etc. And also it can be in business districts also. So it seemed like a good number to start with.
All right, Commissioner Schultz.
I think when I made the suggestion, it was specifically to not have that kind of specification in terms of speed limits and that kind of thing. It was to make our work plan basically 4 items: prioritizing people over vehicles, prioritizing the use of city streets by residents, visitors, and businesses, prioritize the safety of the most vulnerable residents. And number 4, which several people have already mentioned, is to respond to citizen requests. I think to try to get a work plan in the specific speed limits and specific kinds of things like that would not be appropriate at this time. And I think you're right that needs further discussion. But I think that work plan that the group put together is pretty complete.
Commissioner Trout.
Yeah, I want to reiterate, I do think that the subcommittee's report, I think, is outstanding. The only concern I had was, with that very specific 25 miles per hour throughout the city. If I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying throughout the city. So that would be on Encinitas Boulevard. That would be on El Camino Real. So that's the the clarification that I need.
I have a suggestion here. It occurs to me that it'd be very easy to change it, to change the language in this document to say something more along the lines of endeavoring to reduce speed limits on all city streets to a safe and acceptable speed. That's ambiguous enough to where we can do what we want to do, but it also articulates the fact that we want to keep roads at a reasonable speed. I think personally, my opinion is that the speed limit and the average speed on Encinitas Boulevard and El Camino Real is far too high. I also think that it's unrealistic that we're going to get the speed on those two streets lowered to 25 miles an hour anytime soon. Even if the state legislature changes to where we don't have to abide by the 85th percentile rule. That's just sort of my speculation about that. But that would be a recommendation that I would make, is just to sort of make the language a little bit more ambiguous, but still keep the sense of what we were driving at in the document. I have a question for Commissioner Schultz. Are you talking about 4 bullet points exclusively as the work plan? Something
Yes,
real clean like
yes,
that?
I think that keeps it simple, and people can see exactly where we're going, but we don't get into specifics, because if we get into specifics, we could be here until 2 a.m, and that won't work for me.
Understood. Are there any comments from anybody else?
Commissioner Von Neumann here. I agree with Mary Lou. I think 4 bullet points is for the work plan, and the work plan is not the same as the subcommittee report. They're being used for different things. The subcommittee report is addressing the mobility element update specifically. It wasn't written to be part of a work plan, but taking parts of it to be the work plan makes really good sense, in my opinion. And those 4 bullet points, we probably have the easiest, quickest work plan of any commission in the city. And I think Mary Lou is absolutely right on with that.
Okay, thanks. Commissioner Trout.
Yes, no, I think keeping it brief and concise is appropriate, and I support what Commissioner Schultz was recommending.
Okay, then I'll go ahead and make a motion then, if I may, that we have our work plan be those 4 bullet points that I just said.
Excuse me, do we want to make the change that Vice Chair mentioned about the speed limit, or?
My understanding is that it's just going to be basically only the things in bold from this document, with an additional bullet point that we respond to community concerns.
Understood.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Commissioner Von Neumann here, seconds.
She beat you. All right, let's have a vote. All commissioners in favor? Aye.
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 And all opposed? All right, motion carries. Does that suffice, Abe?
Yes, I'll use that. Amanda, is it clear for the minutes? So we have to mention those 4 bullets in the minutes as the motion. So we will say this is the work plan of the commission. And then I'll use those 4 bullets for writing my council agenda report.
Yes, I got it.
Great. And Amanda, you are relieved of the task of finding somebody else's work plan. All right, let's move to the follow-up log.
Okay, Amanda, can you share that? I can share mine too. Okay, I'm already. Thank you. It's good. I can read it. Everybody else can read it? I can read it.
Yeah.
So the new crosswalks on San Alejo, this is, to be fair, we're still waiting on Verde Crossing for the funding of that. We also have 2 other projects on standby. We have the evaluation of the one-way, the Cornish Fork, and also the always stop control and crosswalk at the Cornish Fork. Those 2 are also on standby. I'll bring them to the commission as soon as we have the Verde situation figured out. The mobility update, item 33, this was presented to the commission today. It's an standing item. The cycle track, as commission asked, it's a standing item. I always present on that. Any new findings, any new situation. Item 35, the e-bike policy, also a standing item. We did have something on it today. The crosswalk evaluation at Lacosta on Highway 101, that's on standby. That's to be declared because we want to finish constructing the streetscape in the northerly area. That's what we call segment C, south of Lacosta, before modifying that signal over there. We want to see how the road diet on 101 affects that before spending about $50,000 and introduce a diagonal crossing there. But we do have it, and hopefully before the end of the year, we'll go to construction for streetscape at segment C, and then we can evaluate the diagonal crossing there. Item 37, to revise ENTMP. I did get the guidance from the commission 2-3 months ago. I'm working on it. Hopefully next month, I'll bring the draft new version of the Encinitas Neighborhood Traffic Management Program, merging the current speed cushion, the speed table program with the old, bigger document, which is the ENTMP, and introduce a ENTMP version 2 or something. More on that to come next month. The crosswalk evaluations at several locations. We are actively collecting data. I actually talked to Ian today. Unfortunately, one of the locations ran out of power. The cameras that we have over there collecting data ran out of power Saturday morning. So we tend to, at each location, collect at least a full week of data, both weekdays and weekend days, to see how the pedestrian operation is there and how many conflicts we see. Our staff review those videos. They don't spend 7 days reviewing those videos. They put them on fast run, and I think they said like every hour or every hour, it's like 3 minutes or 5 minutes. They just quickly go over them and count the number of feds. And so fast forward basically to see what number of pedestrian activity and vehicle conflict they count. I should have something to report to the commission next month on that. We are, I think, at the last 2 locations. Everywhere else, we have collected the data. Local roadway safety plan. We did present it to commission 2 months ago. Our final report will go to council in September. And then after that, we'll have an action plan of tackling safety concerns citywide. So every year we'll try to handle 1 or 2 or 3, depending on the size of the project, from that action list that will be coming out of that LRSP report. The bigger ones, we will have to apply for grants. Item 41, the Capri and Burgundy, this is the one that I mentioned. If commissioners want to suggest an idea for us to evaluate, we'll happily go and evaluate it. Otherwise, I would have to just table this. We're really done with the improvements that we think we can do. The rest falls on enforcement efforts and education. Item 42, evaluation of RFPs at Rancho Instance and Lone Jack. We have it on our to-do list. We will collect data and come back to the commission. It's not currently on the work plan that is going to council in later this month because it hasn't been evaluated. But again, this is one of those cases where commission feels like this is something that has to be funded. After we evaluate it, you can always direct us to go to council and request extra funding. Item 43, Encinitas Boulevard Apartments. I did present to you if there's anything else that you'd like me to evaluate or ask for information. I'll be happy to ask our planners for more info. And the last one, this was added last month, Neptune Avenue Active Transportation Zone. There was an item that was put on the log, commissioners to discuss the feasibility of converting Neptune to a pedestrian and bicycle only zone. That's something that I'm not sure how commission wants to handle. Per Unicode, if a roadway is going to be close to vehicular activity, it has to go and be directly approved by a council resolution. So if commission wants to ask any kind of evaluation, ask for any kind of evaluation or feasibility study or anything like that, I'll be happy to go look into how much it would cost us or how it needs to be done, ask for funding from council, and then come back and present the findings. But this is what I have on the log, and I think it needs a little bit more discussion or direction from commission on the last one. With that, I'm open to questions, if any.
All right. Any questions or comments?
Commissioner Prendergast, on the Capri and Burgundy situation, the neighbors are still concerned about it. I don't know if we've done much to alleviate their concerns. Can we revisit this once school starts? Because we've been talking about this throughout the summer and school really hasn't started yet. So is there a way to kick the can or keep it on and maybe revisit, or does it just come back to the commissioner's discussion if the neighbors bring it back up again, come, Thanksgiving or something?
Sure.
But
excuse me. Yes, we sure. What we have is we have a school liaison committee where the school district and principals meet with our acting city engineer monthly. I can bring it up at that point, and maybe they have some input. I can go out and meet with the principal. Maybe the principal has some ideas after 2-3 months of a school.
Yeah, or maybe just put this on the liaison's list of things to just discuss, bring up with his commission, and if it comes back down, at least we've kind of connected the dots.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else?
Commissioner Von Neumann here. Regarding Capri and Burgundy, what about raised crosswalks? What about bulb outs at that intersection, making it harder to turn? Have those all been looked at? I find it hard to believe that we can't come up with a solution that will satisfy the concerns of the residents. Yeah, it might cost more money, but if we know that, if residents know that that's what it'll take, maybe they'll be open to it, and maybe the city will be open to it. But I have to believe that we can solve that issue. Also, Abe, did I hear you correct when you said that the streetscape will be started by the end of the year at the north end?
We are. I do believe the city has applied for a $20 million loan I'm not sure about the status. Last time I heard, we will have that money pretty soon. There is a minor bottleneck, which is asking the Coastal Commission to bless the idea of building a streetscape without the roundabouts and leaving the roundabouts for a second phase. So that's what our planning department is working with the Coastal Commission to kind of clarify for them how this phased approach of the city is. So if we get the loan, obviously we can build the streetscape in its entirety with the roundabouts and sidewalk improvements and everything. If we don't get it, we go with the phased approach. That's currently the plan. Obviously, council would have to vote for it, but with council's blessing, we would have a phase one, which on the northerly area will not build the roundabouts. We'll just do the road diet and add the bike lane, do one lane in each direction, trim down the median, and build the mobility part of the streetscape. The sidewalk enhancements and the street furniture and all those other stuff will come later at a second phase without the loan. That's currently the plan to basically start constructing soon.
Okay, and considering whether to put in a diagonal crosswalk at Lacosta and Coast Highway is dependent on which plan or
the road diet. So if we implement a road diet there, to be honest with you, I am a little bit hesitant in introducing, because as you know, by introducing the diagonal crossing, we'll be imposing a lot of extra delay on 101. And with having the road diet implemented there, I'd rather see the ultimate volume of traffic on 101 after the road diet before implementing anything new on the road.
Okay.
I don't know how the road is going to operate.
I understand that. And then one final question on the crosswalk evaluation for South Coast or several places in the city. I'm a little surprised that it's taking so long to do this because I know that crosswalks were installed on Coast Highway, North Coast Highway through Lacosta really quickly after the Roberta Walker incident. And they were installed not because there were a lot of people walking across the highway, but they were also installed to help traffic calming. And that was one of the reasons why I suggested crosswalks on Coast Highway, South Coast Highway in Cardiff, was a large part of that was for traffic calming, to slow the traffic down. So I'm a little surprised it's taking so long when it was done very quickly at the north end of town. And that's my comment. Thank you.
That's a correct observation. As you know, after the unfortunate the bike collision that we had on 101, council directed the staff to come back I think they gave us like a 1 month window with traffic calming measures implementable on 101. And staff spent, I think I spent like between Christmas and New Year designing that, putting something together with our consultant, and came back to council, and council voted on those measures immediately, and they were implemented. Our current council approved speed table policy does not allow us to put speed tables on any classified road of the city. We can only do it on unclassified roads and roads that are below a certain speed limit. I think it's 30 or below or something. So to override that policy, we need to go to council. So the data that I'm collecting is, because we will be taking a non-council initiated item to council, asking for them to override the city's speed table policy. So as you recall, on 101, there was no neighborhood voting. There was no 50% return. 50% voting yes. There was no voting at all. Council overrode the whole policy, which they have the authority per the policy itself. But for us to go to council and request them approve a speed table at 5-6 different locations of the city, I thought it's better to have good backup data if we're asking them to fund this and override the policy, basically.
Okay, thank you. I understand. Thank you.
But they have a little bit more power than us.
Commissioner Johnson, did you have something?
Okay, it was a small comment there, but with the Roberta Walker thing, I can see the sense of urgency in wanting to do something. What's the say? Never let a good crisis go to waste.
It's sad to me that we're so reactive to a really bad situation in some moments, and that was some silver lining that came out of that. But just going forward, my input on this specific question of these crosswalks, it's important to keep in mind that one of the main reasons that that Michael wants these and that I want them, and one of the main reasons that it was also put on North Coast Highway is for traffic calming. And a lot of times people try to use the lack of traffic, whether it be pedestrian or bicycling, to support the notion that infrastructure for that is not necessary. When in fact, a lot of times the reason that there are not cyclists or pedestrians present is specifically because the roadway is dangerous. And so just moving forward, my sort of input is I hope that you guys will continue to push for this, even if the numbers that come back in terms of motor vehicle and pedestrian conflicts in this corridor aren't super high. I think that it's still a worthy thing to pursue. And if there are no other comments on the follow-up log, we can move to Commissioner's Corner. Anybody got anything for Commissioner's Corner?
I do. Sorry, I'll be quick. Going back to Route 304 on the North County Breeze bus route at the intersection of Rancho Santa Fe and Encinitas Boulevard, 3 stops per day westbound, 2 stops per day eastbound. That gives you your complete public transportation route next to 283 parking, 283 units. Can we get an update or put on an update on the Rancho Santa Fe Road improvement, Abe, for next time? Just to, I don't know, maybe there's nothing changed. We had a nice presentation about traffic calming, road narrowing, trails, things like that. It's been a few months since we've had an update there. There was a pretty gnarly accident at Encinitas, or excuse me, at El Camino Real and Rancho Santa Fe Road, Liebenheim Road, Lucadia intersection, because it all changes their names due to a lot of street paving and the lights were out. Massive motorcycle injuries. Traffic cops were not there when the lights were going out. And since we are the Traffic and Safety Commission, I was just curious if anybody had any insights. I'd love to have the sheriff's comments on why there wasn't anybody there when the lights went out to direct traffic at a 6-lane intersection the other day. So when all that street work was going on and paving, so that's a traffic and safety issue. That's all I have to say.
Commissioner Trouth? Oh, do you have something in response to that?
I can explain. On the first one, Sheriff, to put it on the log, the Rancho Santa Fe traffic calming update. If you want to get a two commissioners' support for it to be added, you can do it after I answer the question. On the second one, yes, there was a pavement project going on. There was actually a sidewalk construction on the corner, and the contractor unfortunately hit our conduits at multiple locations, and the signal was badly damaged. So it went to flash, and then it was a Friday night, I think, and the city hall was closed. It was a Friday that the city hall was closed, so we tried to bring the contractor and find people to come and fix it. That bike collision, that motorcycle collision didn't happen that night. It actually happened, I think, the Monday Monday or Tuesday, where they were actually fixing the signal. So the signal was brought back to work. I mean, it happened so quick that we couldn't even contact the sheriff's office. Within 2-3 hours, we brought it back to operation. On Monday and Tuesday, where they were fixing it, we did have sheriff's office presence there, and they helped. The next day, there was another 2-3 hours. The sheriff's office were not there, and in their defense, we didn't ask them. We weren't aware that the work was continued. So the first day that we were aware, we did ask them in advance, and they were nice enough to give us 2 black and whites, and I think 2 or 3 officers were there. I think on Monday. On Tuesday, where the work, I wasn't aware that was being continued. There was another 2-3 hours, but I did talk to our traffic sergeant. The signal was on flash. The signal was not dark, and the motorcycle, again, this is unofficial. This is from my phone call from the sheriff's office. The motorcycle did not stop at the flash, so the signal was not dark. The signal was flashing red. The motorcycle did not stop. I think going eastbound, and the vehicle was going northbound. So the vehicle did stop at the flash, and then it started moving, but the motorcycle did not stop. Fortunately, I'm hearing this was not a life-threatening injury. Initially, they thought it was very bad. I heard around the city that it was a fatality, but then when I called them, they told me that no, it was a miracle. Luckily, it wasn't life-threatening.
So thank you for the update. And so what I'm hearing, though, is there were 2 3-hour intervals where the lights were not flashing over a 3-day period.
No, they were flashing. They were not operating.
Yes, the entire time there was a flashing light. For those intervals, there was always a flashing light.
There was a very, very short period right where the conduit was hit.
Right.
That I think it went dark, but it was very, very short period. Okay. The rest of it was just flat. There were multiple periods where it was flashing, but no, it didn't go dark.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Trouth?
Yes. Let's see. I was contacted by Commissioner Ross Ritter. He's on the Parks and Rec Commission, and he's recommending that we put a crosswalk and potentially some sidewalk at the intersection of Manchester and San Alejo. There has been some improvements done there already. It looks like some of them are water quality improvements. So they've kind of added a curb in order to make it more of a T intersection. So I would like to get it on the log and do some more research on this, or have the city do a little bit more research on it to understand the feasibility of getting a crosswalk in that location.
Patricia, what intersection are you talking about?
It's Manchester and San Alejo.
It's the 3-way intersection just past the whatchamacallit, the water control facility, and just past so if you're going westbound on Manchester,
right
before it starts to snake, you go past the water treatment facility, and on your left is the lagoon research, or the lagoon facility,
right,
and you're headed west, and you're on your way to Chesterfield. So it kind of snakes up that turn, and then you hit, then it goes down the beach.
Got it.
There's a funky 3-way there.
There is a fork. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yes,
we've got a couple of things dangling here. I personally support putting that on the follow-up log, but I think that you need another commissioner in addition to me to put that on the follow-up log. We have Commissioner Prendergast and Commissioner Von Neumann. So
and Mary.
Mary, if you'll add that to the follow-up log, that'd be great. And then I'm not ignoring you, Commissioner Johnson. Let's go back to Commissioner Prendergast's request to add something to the follow-up log. I don't want us to miss that. Can you reiterate what you're asking for?
I'd like an update on the Rancho Santa Fe Road study, where we received a presentation about 3 months ago. Just an update.
Okay. Are there any?
Commissioner Von Neumann, I will support that.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? I will too. Okay. And Commissioner Johnson.
Okay. Yeah, I think we put off deciding what to do with the subcommittee report. Given that there's the public workshop on this tomorrow, I'd like to send the subcommittee report straight to the advanced planning department. That's of course that's Evan who will receive it, and I'd like the commission to approve that. Is that something we need to discuss and have a motion on?
Abe?
I think we can just have our regular monthly updates on this, and we can also request Jennifer to include this whenever they come back to present their findings out of the meeting tomorrow to the commission. I'm not sure if providing this to the meeting tomorrow will really help tomorrow. I'm one of the members that will attend tomorrow. They're more about asking people what they think and what people think the city needs. It's really not a goal setting meeting or any kind of a idea generating brainstorming meeting. They're asking residents which areas of town needs what, and what neighborhood needs to get what, and which areas of the city need to change in what way. So it's very, very location specific. They're going to provide a map to the residents and ask residents to drop a pin at a certain location and tell them what needs to happen there. But we can always provide this, the mobility update to Jennifer, to the project manager, and have her give that as a guideline, as a plan of attack to the consultant. And when they come back to present this next month or at a future date to the commission, we can ask them to present their plans on how they're going to tackle the city's mobility element, keeping in mind the update that we have today.
Okay, Commissioner Johnson, your hand's still up. Would that satisfy you, or?
I'm just thinking we want to get it into their hands as soon as possible, because they're going to have a lot of public comments, and I think these essentially this subcommittee report seems to be the commission's comment at a fairly high level on what the consultant should be doing. We don't have the ear of the consultant, and we don't really have the advanced planning looking much for guidance from us, and I think we need to push a little bit.
I mean, this can become a letter from the chair of the commission to the project manager, and we can do that too. Just having Chair Grover sign that letter and send it to the project manager of the mobility element update.
That would be good for me. Marty, what do you say? Because Brian isn't around.
Well, I mean, I would clearly sign it if I wasn't stepping down at the end of the evening. And I think my inclination there is that Abe's probably right that it's not going to really influence anything in any of the way that anybody acts tomorrow. At the same time, I don't think it would do any harm to send it to both of those people right now. But if we're in general agreement that it's not going to influence tomorrow's conduct and activities, then I don't think that I think that the idea of forwarding it as a formal letter from Brian, who I imagine will be on board with that, is a good idea.
I mean, it can be supported by the majority of the commission, and chair would have to sign it. So, if commissioners in general, like the majority wants this letter to go out to the project manager, we can include it in the minutes, and then we can say this should go out.
Can we do that now?
Yeah, of course.
Would you guys like to vote on that or voice your support?
Commissioner Von Neumann, I would support that. With 2 changes to that document. Somebody had mentioned number 2E, rather than ensure, use the word provide. And under the third prioritize statement, to include low income people. And also, I can make
Commissioner Trouth and I both were concerned about the 25 miles an hour throughout the city. In terms of even other streets, such arterial arteries that Abe described under various city codes and state codes being classified roads and things, that we're actually making statements that we can't support. So I would like to consider being a little more vague in that statement. Safer roads, or as Commissioner Trouth had mentioned earlier, she had some phraseology. Clearly, that's my thought.
All right, Commissioner Trouth.
Marty, I thought you had a nice way of phrasing that, changing that sentence. Do you recall what you said?
I'll improvise.
Okay.
Let me get back to that part of the document. I just think, you could change it to something along the lines of reduce vehicle speeds within the city boundaries to safe and acceptable speed. And if you wanted to get more specific than that, in light of the fact that, lowered speeds are less dangerous and less lethal in the event of a crash.
Yeah.
If that's a sticking point, that's an easy modification that keeps the spirit of the document.
Glenn, this is Commissioner Von Neumann here.
Is hard to understand.
Yes.
Oh, if it's okay with you, I'll make those changes to the document. Since you're the chair of this subcommittee,
please do.
And I will make those changes to the document and forward them to the chair of the subcommittee.
Great. Is there any opposition to that? All right, let's do that.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything for Commissioner's Corner?
Okay, and then presumably I will immediately forward that to Amanda to get emailed across the building.
Sure.
Sounds good to me.
Anything else on Commissioner's Corner?
Commissioner Von Neumann here. Yes, we need to evaluate how to establish 24-hour parking permit zones in that area that the citizens were concerned about. We need to study that and find out about that. I know we've done that. The city has done that in the past. So I hope there is support on the commission to put that on the log to address.
Second that.
Second, okay.
You've got four of us, so that's adequate to add that to the log.
Okay.
Anyone else? All right. This is my farewell speech. And I'll speak to that issue. I have a bit of a hardline attitude about parking issues, and I believe that preferential parking districts serve to partially privatize public land, and that gives me the heebie-jeebies. It really bothers me to give some members of the public access to a public good when you keep it from other members of the public. And that's an inequitable solution to a problem. And it in the instance that we assume that the people parking on those streets are associated with the lesser affluent apartment complex next to those streets, it's also inegalitarian. And that really is problematic and troublesome for me. I keep going back to this solution. I believe that where there is ample demand for parking on a public street, there should be performance-based pricing on that parking. That's an equitable solution. And the fact that the private residents on that street have grown accustomed to parking on public property, keeping their unused private property on public property for free, but want to exclude other members of the public from doing that really stresses me out. And there are a couple of equitable things that you can do. You can make it a no parking zone on the street all the time. And that would ostensibly get the people who are non-residents parking on the street from parking on the street. But I think that if the residents are entitled to park on the street, then so is any other member of the public. And the other thing that you can do is charge for parking. And in a lot of these situations, there are circumstances where it feels like aspersions are being cast on certain people. I see people sitting in their cars looking at other people at the Moonlight Beach parking lot all of the time, and that doesn't raise anybody's eyebrows or hackles at all. And most of the things that we're talking about being unwanted behavior, whether it's defecating in someone's yard or the street, disturbing the peace, open container, et cetera, those things are all illegal, parking in front of a fire hydrant. And so I support enforcing the laws that are already in place. And so that's my 2 cents on that. And the only other thing that I have to say is that you're welcome to disregard that, because I am going on a sabbatical of sorts, and I'm not sure when I'm going to be back to Encinitas, and it feels inappropriate for me to provide guidance on infrastructure that I can't go and touch. So it's been a wonderful opportunity to be on the commission. I've really thoroughly enjoyed it because I'm a nerd. And Commissioners Trouth and Prendergast, it's so weird that I've never gotten to meet you in person.
I know.
Maybe someday in the future.
I hope so. And thank you for somebody who's new to the commission for all of your long-term support, your knowledge, your thoughts, your insights. Clearly you bring a lot to the table, and I've learned from listening to you and hearing your thoughts just now. I was shaking my head, very clear and concise. I appreciate your service. I wish you the best on your travels.
Cool. Thanks.
Marty, you didn't check with me before you decided to do this, so I'm upset. Now, have fun doing what you're doing, and just be assured that your thoughts will not disappear with you.
Cool. Thanks. All right.
Happy trail to you wherever you go.
Thanks. I'm not sure yet.
Well, that's what's fun.
Yeah.
Ernie.
Thank you again, Marty, for all you've done. You've certainly brought me to think about parking in a whole different way. And I will try to carry your legacy. I warn you all.
Well, thank you. All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right. And a second?
I second.
Okay, Commissioner Trouth. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you,
Happy
Marty.
trails, Marty.